All right, it looks like we are live. I'm David Wilcock. Thank you for joining us today. I'm nervous. My hands are shaking. This is a big deal, folks. What we're about to go through today might be the last time that I do a video like this without some very, very, very big stuff that we're going to be talking about afterwards. So without any further ado, I want to get right into it because there's so much to cover. I'm David Wilcock. Thank you for joining us today. I'm nervous. My hands are shaking. This is live streaming. You got to turn that speaker off. This is a big deal, folks. What we're about to go through today might be the last time that I do a video like this without. So without any further ado, very, very big right stuff into it because there's so. All right, sorry about that, everybody. You know, things are random when you're doing live stuff, and you never know what's going to happen, so we keep moving. All right, not a big deal. Sorry about that. And of course, this is not working. We have another one. Would you hand me the other one, please? Because without this, we got no slides. This always happens when you're live streaming, folks, so don't hate me. This is the unprofessionalism that is the norm for all live streams. Okay, are you going to work now? No, you're not. So there's something wrong with that side. See, folks, I have to have a switcher. This is so embarrassing. It has to work. Christ, okay, it's not working, so I'm going to have to use my hands. This is live streaming, folks. It's absolutely not working. Wow. All right. That really, really sucks. Okay, never mind. Here we go. Wait a minute. Something is very wrong here because it's not even... I'm sorry, folks. Okay, let's see if that fixed it, and now we'll get slides. No. If I can get the slides working, then we're all very happy. Okay, here we go. Got it. Boom, done. See, you don't hate me that much, do you? It wasn't that long. I figured it out. Okay. So one of the kind of comedy items that I'd like to start with today is that there's some collector's items for sale right now, and you might actually want to buy some of them. So let's go to the slide real quick. I got this letter today from way, way back when I donated to Barack Obama. And I think that what they're selling is going to be collector's items because they're talking about artifacts that you can buy to celebrate the inauguration. And shop now, shop now. So I actually don't really want you to financially support these people. It's just a joke. But I kind of find it ironic that, I kind of find it ironic that now they're out there trying to fundraise. Why would you want to buy these if you have no idea if it's really going to happen? This is not a normal situation, folks. We have 30,000 soldiers stationed in D.C., and there's all kinds of war material. So let me try to summarize, because now that there's no chaos and actually I have my slides working and everything's pretty good, let me just try to give you a summary of what's going on here. It does appear that we are very, very close to major stuff simply because the date of January the 20th is a fixed date that we can't get around. So if that's true, then the Alliance, as I've called it all these years, the positive forces in the world who are trying to save our planet from very sinister elements, they are trying as hard as they can to make sure that we are not completely wiped out here. Now, I have heard about plans that would include the inauguration taking place and things happening after that point, even if the inauguration is what the media has been telling us all this time. So, Granted, the sources that I've been speaking to have said that if we wait that long, if we wait till afterwards, it becomes more difficult. But it is most definitely not impossible. There are international solutions that are multifaceted that will kick in. So, I mean, the 25th Amendment thing is going to get pulled out the day after the inauguration if nothing else happens. So there's a lot to think about here. This is the deadline. We're on a deadline. So therefore, if the alliance doesn't do something big soon, then it's going to be too late. But again, I'm seeing people think that if we hit this date of January 20th and we haven't seen anything yet, that it's all over and we're all gone and nothing's ever going to work out and it's global fascist tyranny. That is not true. Okay, it's a lot better if we don't have to wait longer than that, but it's not true. So I just wanted to make that clear. Now, one of the things that I want to alert you to, going back to the slide again, I had tweeted about this before, but I didn't really get into a lot of detail. The MFF, as you can see here, had a hidden code in it, and the alleged VP-elect had this weird symbol that she put into her tweet, and this, you can see it here. So now what is this? Let's zoom in on it a little bit more. It says, if you're able to, chip in now to the MN Freedom Fund to help post bail for those protesting on the ground in Minnesota. So what we're essentially dealing with here is getting the public to pay for the people who are doing these really outrageous things, which we're going to see. They're packing machine guns, they're packing all kinds of stuff, and you'll see the photographs of this and where it's coming from. And they're raising money to get you to pay for it, to get you to pay for bailing these people out. But as is often the case with these dark, sinister forces, they like to have ceremonial aspects to it. So let's go back to the slide again. As soon as I saw this, I said, you know, there's something really strange about this symbol. There's something, it kind of reminds me of some of the other ones they've used that people have already exposed. And so I looked at this for a while and I said, you know what, with just a little bit of Photoshop, I can turn the M 9 degrees and add something to the Fs and flip them mirror image vertical. Boom, you got your 33 right there. And the M is also like a 3 on its side. So you might not think this means anything. You might think, oh, David, you're a conspiracy theorist. That's fine. I'm not necessarily saying 100% that this means anything, but I would encourage you to take a look at it and think about it and wonder, just wonder for yourself. So again, here's what we started with, back to the slide, and just with a little bit of tweaking, we go back to this. So what we have been talking about for so many years here is that these people who are the DS, if you will, who are doing all the negative stuff, or at least a lot of it, most of it, they have to do this stuff. They have to signal to you with their science, with their occult magic, what they're planning on doing. And so they have to tell you, hey, folks, this is one of our plans. So the idea of bailing out their own agent provocateurs, yeah, they're going to embed some symbolism into that. So this is just one aspect of something that is causing people a lot of fear. So back to the slide yet again. There have been various briefings coming in which indicate massive fear. And this is something that really has... Okay, are we buffering badly enough that people can't actually watch the show? Can people actually see the show right now? That's what I want to know.
They can.
Okay, good.
It's a little blurry.
Okay, sorry about that, everybody, but we are going to keep moving. And all right. So we're on the slide here, and the question that we're going to be asking ourselves is it possible that we are doomed? Because some of these briefings are sounding very, very bad. And some of those briefings include things like this. So you can read this for yourself. JB is all excited about moving heaven and earth to allow more people to get Vs, create more places for this to happen, mobilize more medical teams to get shots in arms, increase the supply, and get it out the door as soon as possible. Now, this is all fine and good if you are a normie who follows the media. In fact, we see some people who are so desperate to have this that they're running right into it. But then there are also very significant concerns that have been raised. Let's go over here. Very significant concerns that have been raised in which, like, there have been reactions to some of these that involve full body tremors. There's been noticeable increases in deaths, particular Antrim County, if you've heard about that one, where there was, like, I forget how many residents, a couple hundred residents in a nursing home. Nobody had died before, but there might have been one. And then they all got this shot, and then, like, 23 of them died, like, right away, within, like, less than a week. So that's troubling kind of stuff. Now, that could happen, that could happen. Well, it's a very, very strange thing. If you haven't already figured this out, it's a very strange thing that these people are so desperate to inject you with something. But nobody wants to look at the dead dog on the road, right? That can't be my dog, officer. My dog doesn't have guts coming out of his mouth. It's a sick joke, but it's a true point, okay? The point is, we don't like looking at stuff that terrifies us. We don't like... It's the man in the bedroom effect. We don't want to see the man in the bedroom. We don't want to believe that this could actually be happening to us. And yet, it's right in front of your face. There's all kinds of strange, disturbing things going on here. And why are these people rushing this agenda so fast? All right, well, if that isn't terrifying enough, then we have our friend Mike, who, and I support him. I'm not saying that I don't, okay? However, if you are one of the about 100,000 people or so from this audience that migrated over to him from the last show, no, we cannot lower the stream setting. Not without restarting the whole thing. Is it bad? Is it really bad? How bad is it?
You're blurry, but the slides look great.
Okay, but can people hear me, and is the audio uninterrupted? I'm sorry, everybody. We have to go through this stuff.
Yeah, maybe if we turn the chat off.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Yeah. That's going to save a lot of data. Sorry, everybody. All right. So, again, very, very sorry. We get massively, massively attacked when we do these, and that includes all kinds of weird, non-physical, non-linear things, like bandwidth suddenly not working when every other time we've done it at the same rate, it's fine. But not tonight. Okay, so be it. Sorry about that. As I keep talking, this is going to stop. It seems like, because we are on a shared internet line that we have to share with other people, everybody's downloading movies right now. Hopefully it'll wear off pretty fast, and we'll get a good, clean feed. All right. So this is what Mike had to say on January the 16th. And it was extremely disturbing. I've told you before, folks, over here. Let's go to this camera. I've told you before, folks, that I've had a lot of issues with being too fearful and not wanting to look at things negatively. And so, in a sense, I often will avoid speculating on the probabilities of negative outcomes of a situation like the one we're in now. I believe that what Mike was really doing was saying, okay, I'm looking at a possibility, and this is a possibility that I've been briefed on. So we have to consider the possibility that this might not go the way that everybody seems to think that it will. There was deep, deep concern from Mike and others about Steve Pieczenik. Is he a possible agent of some kind? I've supported his work before, and I also have heard certain insiders warn me about him. I actually think he's a hero. He's done a lot of good work. And he was on Alex's show talking about that there was going to be this inevitability that the former president will also become the new president, that he's going to be sworn in again, and that it would happen on January 20th. Now, that's probably not the way it's actually going to go down. So we don't really know. Anyway, the point is I don't want to go after anybody in our own community. We do not hang our own. We do not eat our own. We got to support each other as much as we can. Let's just focus on the negative news that was in this that a lot of people were very upset about. Here we go. Back to the slide. The vast majority of evidence stemming from actions by T officials. Chris says he is leaving the DOD on Wednesday, for example, indicates that JB will be sworn in and America will fall to a radical left-wing authoritarian police state. Oh my goodness. And he argues this for a long time. This isn't just like 5, 10, 15 minutes. This is like a 45-minute discussion. Very, very dark, very scary discussion. Even worse, he says, it appears to us that the blankety blank, and DS actors are preparing a large-scale FF event in the coming days, which will be used to justify incoming President B declaring his own act and ordering nationwide confiscation. Or the other one that we're hearing is that JB might actually be taken out by alleged Trump supporters. That's right, that he would no longer be alive. Again, this is not something that I want. I'm just saying that this is what we've been warned about, that some kind of event like that could be staged to try to really create a lot of chaos and disorder. Okay, then we got to look at the tweets from Powell, and some of them have a similar tone. These all came out in the last few days. And again, very, very troubling, disturbing, terrifying kind of stuff. And by the way, she changed over to her own channel on this particular app that we talked about last time, and then the members just went way, way up. All indications are that despite the overwhelming evidence of massive F and more evidence available inside the government and other legal options available, the president is taking no action to protect the republic. What? This is his lawyer saying this? What is going on here? This is terrifying. People around him are limiting his information and lying to him about his legal options. Apparently she sees things that they're not telling him are real. The B administration will be consolidating power from day one, and the F corporations are already limiting speech and firing freedom lovers. Just look at the military in D.C. now. T did not call them in, and all that for a virtual I that no one will attend. It's all about power and global commie money. You can see and smell the corruption in D.C. It's gone from a swamp to a pure cesspool. There were and have been a lot more people illegally E'd than just B and H. Then she says, we need a miracle. Pray. Then she says, there are powers still available to the president and more information from within our government and other governments that he can access. And other witnesses, simple steps that can be taken to get the truth out now. And it does not require M-law. All right, and then here's another one, and you can see the members keep going up day by tens of thousands. D.C. is now full police state. Whoa. Friends there, and you look at the pictures of the films, if you haven't looked at them, folks, it's amazing. There's so many soldiers there. 30,000, as I said, all kinds of stuff. Friends there advise they are being stopped at every intersection, required to show papers, including pay stubs, in order to go to their place of work and state where they are going. Welcome to full F, courtesy of Muriel Bowser and HB. Well, that's one opinion, right? But we don't know if this is true. We don't. It's entirely possible, as all the other briefings that we've been getting are saying, that there's something afoot. There's something we're not seeing here, and that this is actually setting up a mass arrest. It's not an evil thing. It's not a bad thing. It's keeping everybody in, making sure nobody can escape. There's checkpoints on the way out. So this is a very, very heavy situation. Back to the slide, please. Biden's transition team has revealed there is a very real fear that members of the National G who support PT might kill B during the I. Sorry about this, folks. Just read it for yourselves, please. I don't want to get all these tripwires tripped, because believe me, that's how they find you. They listen. All right. So they've asked commanders to confiscate all A and magazines from the S's. See the photo. Okay, so this again came from her. And wait a minute, confiscate? What? See the photo? Well, sure enough, here's an example of a photograph with the Capitol in the background, soldier in the foreground with his mask, and he's got his munition there, but he doesn't have a clip in it. So, people are like, well, I don't know if this is true. Again, this may be part of what's going on right now, but there's a lot of other things going on that we're not seeing, and I believe it's all going to be fine. But the other thing that Mike was talking about that caused incredible concern in people was the next thing that we're going to on the slide here. This right here. a certain type of product from a certain type of entity in shipping containers. You don't believe me? Okay. Here's the proof, and this comes from, I forget what it is, I think it's 2016 or 2018. C develops multiple launcher that hides in container. So that's right, a normal shipping sea-land container can have this top that opens up, the lid pops up, out come these guys, and they shoot off their ordnance. Now, what the briefing was that Mike was talking about was that there are lots of these that have been positioned here quietly for years as they've been planning for this. Again, that's very, very upsetting. And furthermore, to get back to the slide once again, the power grid is the #1 target. That's what they intend to hit with these, apparently, that and other critical infrastructure things. So one of the things Mike reported on is that there are batteries of these Patriots activated all over the U.S. And if you go through the right channels and you look at all the notifications that they put out for the military, you can easily see this. Now, some of the briefings we got hinted at the possibility, but most of them are still very positive. Now, the good thing about these Patriots is that they are very, very good at intercepting things in real time. So hopefully, if these are ever even used, if these sea-land container things are ever used, they will all be stopped. We don't know for sure, but it looks very likely that they would all be stopped. So it's a very terrifying situation, to say the least, but it also shows you the poignancy of what's going on at this moment. All right, back to the slide again. Here's another tweet kind of thing that showed up, basically saying, Sean Spicer, the former WH press secretary, saying they are stopping every car trying to leave the city and are asking for ID. So this is again showing they don't want people leaving. There's some kind of operations going to be taking place there, and it doesn't matter whether they have ammo yet or not. Don't worry about it, everybody. It's going to be fine. And then just today, as I was putting all this other stuff together and looking at the possibility of the negative outcomes, I got an email that said read immediately. And while I was putting these slides together at the exact point we are now, I clicked on it. At the exact moment that I clicked on it, I got major, major synchronicities. And this shows me the possibility, the way I like to work, is that when I see synchronicity, it means there's probably something going on that I should pay attention to. The first thing I noticed was the video view count, which just for me, at this exact second that I went in, had exactly 3,333 views. If you don't believe me, I took a picture of it. And so there he is, 3333. And then, this is all I saw at first. I was already impressed, especially because if you look carefully, the total runtime of the video ends in a 33. So there's another one. 2 minutes and 33 seconds, right? You see that? But wait, there's more. Not only were there 3,333 views, he also has exactly 333 subscribers, as you can see right here. And just to make the point better, I'm going to zoom in on it. So there you, and I just, for fun, I put it at the 33-minute mark, just to have fun, okay? That's all that is. But again, it ends in 33, 2 minutes, 33 seconds, 3,333 views, and 333 subscribers. Now, this has to do with the concept of what you see there, hashtag Great Voice, which is actually a very significant thing. It's a mass notification system for all of our people in uniform and people like emergency services. So, the way I like to work is that when somebody says, read this immediately right now, and I was at this point in the slideshow as I'm building it, and I'm talking about all this really fearful stuff, and then I click on it and I get all these repeating numbers. First of all, this is something I've been documenting for many, many, many years. Typical skeptics, typical people who are not familiar with this type of initiatory world have a real hard time with synchronicity, but I don't know how it works, honestly. I'm not trying to do it. It's just that when I seemingly randomly click on something, in certain cases like this, there's repeating number patterns. And this has been going on for years. I document it thoroughly in my new book, Awakening in the Dream, as I did in the Synchronicity Key. I've had almost every article that I have, I would get them at the end, and I document them. So this, to me, suggests very strongly that even if the intel that he's giving us is not precisely correct, that it's trending in the right direction of hope at least. And there's a possibility, but we're going to find out real soon, that this might actually be true. Now, I don't know, but I think that he's on the right track, at least. So when I see those synchronicities, it gets me to pay attention. Let's go back to what did this actually say. So he's reporting on alleged leaked intel. And this is the quote from the beginning of the video. I'm transcribing it for you. Are you serious? Are you serious? Guys, this is some information that was sent to me from one of the Make America Great groups out there. An Air Force pilot received this information. He then sent it to his father-in-law, and this is what it says. And folks, this is mind-blowing if it's true. And again, we're not going to have to wait very long, but at least I hope the trend line of this is correct. Quote, this is from the Air Force, what was he, a captain, right? It was a captain. Let's see. Let's just get a pilot. He's a pilot. I'm sorry about that. We don't know what his rank is. Okay, so here we go. We need 100% of the people, assumingly on Earth, indoors to see what the United States military is going to broadcast on everyone's TV sets worldwide. It's going to be very painful, but we can no longer have people divided. Around Sunday or Monday, now he didn't say what week, but I would assume that's like today or tomorrow, so this is a very tight deadline. The President of the United States will send out a message saying, my fellow Americans, the storm is upon us. We will go to full global ML. The Prez will be on AF1 when he sends out 7 presidential messages. Okay, we got a number. That's something I've never heard before. Now, this could all be a LARP. It might not be true at all. I'm not saying that it is, but it's compelling. 7 presidential messages to everyone's phones and TV sets worldwide on an emergency B system. From there, all global military, via the U.S. military, will shut down all media. Apparently, this is a worldwide event. That's internet, social media, phones, and all TV programming. They will be all under one channel, which I guess means there's only one channel you can get, and you'll be able to get it somehow, and emergency services. There, the U.S. military can broadcast 10 days of this storm, and he also said seven messages. So 10 days, 7 messages, something like that. 10 days of sessions. Now, what are they? He says it very clearly. 3-hour video confessions from a military T. Lots of evidence for the scandal listed in the storm. While this is happening, they will be removing governments, making global arrests, and this will all be going on. And then the guy who did the video that we just saw said the following. So Americans will be getting arrested around the globe, not just here in the U.S., but other parts of the world, and people from around the world who have participated in this C attempt against the President of the U.S. So that's very exciting, folks. Now, do we know if this is true? Absolutely not. Is it possibly true? Yes. Do I like the fact that it had 3,333 subscribers, or 333 subscribers and 3,333 views at the exact moment I read it? Yes. I didn't want to close that window on my computer. I'm like, leave it up. This is unbelievable. I still have it open on the other machine. Now, I will also say that I have gotten other sources that have said very similar things, specifically regarding the idea that there are going to be videos taped at tribunals that are going to be airing. This is not the only place I heard this. The other briefing had additional information that I do not feel comfortable sharing. I do not want to screw up any of these plans. I don't know when it could happen. Again, it might be after the 20th. We really honestly don't know, but it's crazy exciting. Now, something for the people who say nothing ever changes, David. Why do you always talk about this, but then nothing ever happens? Well, something did happen. Back to the slide. Pindar actually is the name of the leader of this group that we've been talking about for so long. It is a name that refers to the dragon and the male member of the dragon. That's the name of the leader. So the Pindar is basically the number one guy. And this number one guy just so happened to have mysteriously passed over on January 16th at age 57. And here you go. That's right. Banker Benjamin de Rothschild, I probably shouldn't say that either, owner of the group, dies age 57. So that is compelling because that's a very young age and it's a very suspicious time, to say the least. Now, this is all, again, showing the possibility of steps being taken leading up to other steps. We had that blackout in Italy that went on for 8 hours, and all kinds of strange suggestions that evidence was obtained inside, possibility that people have been arrested that we don't know about. Same thing apparently happened in Pakistan. Same thing apparently happened in Germany. So it's all quiet up until now, but then we also have, like in DC itself, people can't go anywhere. So this could all be part of a very well orchestrated plan that we're seeing take place. Back to the slide. Another thing we're very interested in now is what is called the EAS. That's one of the terms for it, and I'll just try to stop saying keywords. The EAS is a national public warning system that allows the president to address the American people within 10 minutes during a national emergency. The alerts are sent through broadcasters, satellite digital audio services, direct broadcast satellite providers, cable TV systems, and wireless cable systems. So then when you go into the details on the EAS, it says messages can interrupt radio and TV to broadcast emergency alert information. Messages cover a large geographic footprint. Emergency message audio text may be repeated twice, but EAS activation interrupts programming only once and then regular programming continues. Well, not this time. Not from what we're hearing. Messages can support full message text for screen crawl and display, audio attachments in MP3 format, and additional languages. Now, it doesn't say that it doesn't say that we would have video. But think about it. If you could download an MP3, you could download a video. And so we really don't know what might be the preferred method or any method that would allow videos to actually happen. But isn't it interesting, when we were just talking in the previous show, some of the tweets from Wood, if you remember him, one of the attorneys working around POTUS, and that he had said, okay, everybody, it sure looks like Jeffrey is alive. Jeffrey from the island, right? So wouldn't it be cool if it turns out that that's one of the testimonials that we get, and you see a video of him, you find out that he didn't die after all, and he just lays it all down in these 3-hour chunks over the course of 10 days. It's not just going to be him, but if he's already done that video, wouldn't that be exciting? Now, I don't know if that's what's going to happen. I hope that's part of it, but I don't know. But no matter what, I think it's going to be very, very amazing. I think it's going to involve very, very big names. And we heard a lot about what was happening even in 2018 and 2019, that some of these tribunals may have quietly taken place. So this might not be new stuff. It's just that all these things have been taking place in secret. And so this is a very, very exciting moment. Now, one of the things that came up for me recently was a big conversation that I had with my mother. And I'll explain the context of that in just a minute. But back to the slide again, I want to be honest about my family history, because there is one aspect of my family that I've never talked about before, because I don't know why. I don't want to brag, and I just never decided to talk about it before. But my mother and I talked about this yesterday quite a bit. As it turns out, and we've always known this, I am actually a direct bloodline descendant of the original founder of the United States Navy from his brother, William Paul. So I am the third or fourth great-grandnephew of John Paul Jones. So his brother is my great-great-great third or fourth great-grandfather. Now, why am I bringing this up? I have both sides of my family strong American Revolution ties. And if I'm a descendant of the brother of the founder of the Navy, then maybe there's something in my blood that says, get out there and get into the fight. Don't leave this to chance. Don't expect it to get done on its own. Get in there, take action, do something constructive. And that's what he did. John Paul Jones was elemental in making sure that this worked itself out. And it is my hope that I have been elemental in this war, because I don't want all the hard work that my own ancestors fought for and in some cases died for, all the way back in the 1700s. We were some of the first people here in America, okay? I don't want all that effort to go to nothing. The soldiers are taking an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that's something that everybody should take notice of. It's ironic that my mother didn't even realize that John Paul Jones was considered the founder of the Navy. She knew the name, but didn't even realize that when I'd done the research on it. So I would like to think that there's some of that heritage in me, and that we're carrying that torch forward. And I just thought it was an interesting thing to throw in there in light of all the other stuff that came up with my mother that we're going to learn about in just a minute here. So people might be asking, well, should we just surrender? You know, if there's nothing we can do, you know, it seems like the E is trash. It seems like the inauguration's moving forward. You know, nothing we can do. Should we just surrender? Well, what did my own great-granduncle say? What's his famous quote? Does anybody remember? Well, if you're a Marine because, you know, the Marines are a division of the Navy, right? So we also started the Marines in that sense. He said, "I have not yet begun to fight." This is exactly where I am, folks. As long as there's any way to get these messages out, even if we are completely suppressed, completely stuffed down, we will continue doing it. This is not over. Now, back to the slide once again. As of January the 8th, there was a very strange tweet that the president put out that was the last one he ever got to do. As soon as he did this, they shut him down completely, and I think it's because they understood he was speaking in code to the military. So, this is what he said. "My supporters will have a giant voice and will not be disrespected." Right after this, he was taken down. Now, what does that actually mean? What is giant voice? This is a code term, and I'll show you where, for the military's mass emergency notification system. Isn't that something? And here it is. ASC, here's a website. It says Giant Voice and Military Mass Notification Systems. And sure enough, his account was taken down immediately after this tweet, and then everybody else followed suit. Now, one possible reason for this is that whoever was doing the censorship realized that by saying that term, marching instructions were being given to the military. Alliance briefings were coming out, and they don't want to have any more of those come out because it could trigger other operations, could trigger new things. So they said, uh-oh, we better shut them down. And that's pretty significant because it's a coded phrase, and we've seen this in 17 a whole bunch of times. Next slide. This is another thing that the old Powell channel happened before it got changed to its new name. She apparently did not. We'll see that in a minute. B may assume the office, but the majority of the nation will be listening to DJT for the next 4 years. B is a joke. So, again, you know, I think a lot of people are in that place. And then this was actually somebody who commented on one of my videos where they said, holy crap, I'm traveling and there were unscheduled sirens in MN and MI these last few days with the emergency alert system. And then somebody said, whoa, I saw your comment as that part of the 2.5-hour video was on. So that's like a synchronicity for them. How long was the siren? An hour, like the Post said? That's madness. And they said, no, just a minute or so each, but these were very small towns, one today in the UP, or UP. I'm not sure what that means. Okay. And then another person, I read your comments, everybody, and I listen to you. I want you to know that. So somebody alerted me to this, and I'd heard nobody else talking about it. On January 8th, 2021, T signed a proclamation of succession from the corporation. Look on whitehouse.gov, it's there. So I did go back, thanks to your suggestion, and I looked, and sure enough, this is what I found. January 8th, 2021, memorandum on providing an order of succession within the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation. Well, as many of you probably know, because you're a very intelligent audience, we have a corporate government for the U.S., and that corporate government is where you get zip codes, the District of Columbia, And then there's a lot of people in the alternative community, inspired usually by Jordan Maxwell. He kind of started all this. The idea that we all have a maritime or admiralty law that we're under, that there's this strange thing having to do with gold fringes being on the flag, that it has to do with zip codes, and that if you accept a piece of mail that has a zip code on it, then you are certifying that you are a member of this corporation of the United States. That is a big, big problem, because apparently the Federal Reserve note, the U.S. dollar, has these, it has these numbers on them. And what we hear from guys like Jordan is that those numbers are the same length and the same alphanumeric format as what you would see on the back side of your Social Security card. If you look on the bottom, on the back side, on the right of your Social Security card at the bottom, there will be a red digit, a red alphanumeric code. You'll notice it has the same number of digits as what you see on the dollar. Supposedly, this is your stock number, and one of the things that's going on with this corporation is that we are all apparently given 10 stock numbers at the time we are born, and then credit is issued against the money that we are expected to earn in the course of a normal human lifetime. Now, if you're trying to understand who cares? So what but what they're doing is they're actually taking these numbers that correspond to real people, and they're putting those numbers on the money. The numbers represent how much money you would have earned, and I forget how much it is. I think it's $3.5 million per person for their life, or it might even be more than that. I'm not sure. But then there were these alternative things for many years that, if you know what to do, you can ask for the money from your stock, from your 10 different accounts. You have 10 stock numbers, 10 accounts that lead to you being traded as a security. So every dollar, a $1, a $5, a $20 bill, whatever it is, has a number on it, and that corresponds to a particular person's body. So that when they're stealing our money, they think they're stealing our bodies, they're stealing our life force. This is the argument. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But it's exactly the kind of weird stuff these people love to do. So the corporation of the U.S. is where the problem resides. This is where all the money is going back to the British and the Vatican, really, is what it comes down to, because it's all interconnected. So look at what's going on here. This is indeed one of many executive orders. You probably heard of many others. But this one in particular focuses on an order of succession for the U.S. corporation. Now, the corporation is really what's being run by the DS. So if there's a succession, that means that everything changes. Now, look at this. Let's go to the next slide. It says, order of succession. Subject to the provisions of Section 2 of this memorandum, blah, 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 blah. The following offices of the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, or DFC, in the order listed, shall act and perform the functions and duties, don't fall asleep yet, shall act and perform the functions and duties of the office of the Chief Executive Officer of DFC, that's the corporation, during any period, listen to this, here it comes, during any period in which the Chief Executive Officer of DFC has died, resigned, or otherwise become unable to perform the functions and duties of the office of the Chief Executive Officer of DFC. And then look at all the different rights of succession, which, if you think about it, let's say that all of these current people in this corporation would be arrested, or most of them would be arrested. Then you got to be able to promote somebody and get them up to the top. Well, a legal framework has been put in place where this entire corporation could be arrested, or almost everybody, and somebody's still going to be able to lead it. So here's all the right of succession that we have. Deputy Chief Executive Officer, Chief Operating Officer, Executive VP for Strategy, Chief of Staff, VP and General Counsel, Deputy General Counsel, VP Structured Finance and Insurance, VP Development Credit, and Chief Financial Officer and Vice President of Finance. Now, why would you need to make an executive? I tripped over my words. That doesn't usually happen. Executive. Why would we need so many levels of this thing for succession to occur, where the next person comes in, but then the next person. Well, it says right here again, if the chief executive officer has died, resigned, or otherwise become unable to perform the functions and duties of the office. Well, it looks like they're expecting that everybody is going to be dying, resigning, or unable to produce the functions of the office. So yeah, thank you guys for sending me that one. Whoever that was, thank you. Your name is in the comment there. So here's another one from Powell, and we heard all about this. There was another round of impeaching, and it didn't go anywhere, just like the last one. I liked the fact that it was at 5:55, because I look for those little things, you know. And then, well, it's very sad, but back to the slide again. Here we are on this thing that I'm not even going to say, because it just got torched. It'll probably never come back. The CEO is now on the run. Dan B, and you know, the last name being Bongino. He actually, I think he's probably the principal financier of this, or at least one of the main ones. He's certainly talked about it enough. And I love him. Both my wife and I, we watch him, and we're very happy with what he's doing. We ached for him, and we're so happy that he seems to have gotten through his chemotherapy successfully, and he's recovering. Anyway, this is what it looked like. And then we did that last video, if you remember, where like within 3 hours of when the video was over, this was going to be going down. This whole social alternative network was going down. And sure enough, I went back and looked, and this is what it turned into. Back to the slide. Sure enough, and if you look there, we can't connect to the server at .com. So there it is. I mean, this really happened, folks. And doesn't that suggest the possibility that you might be guilty of something? Do you actually need to destroy the entire platform? It's bad enough that you sent Dan what very likely was some sort of artificially induced problem with his body. He was brave enough and healthy enough that he was able to save himself. Then you try to kill him again through another means? Do we really think that cancer was totally natural? Come on. We know all about what they do. So, unbelievable. This poor guy. And I feel bad for him, but he is one of the leading voices, and he gets our respect. Absolutely. Okay, so here's another one from Powell after she got her own account. And it says, this was a tweet. And minutes after this tweet came out, they added this thing to the bottom, but now they're just getting rid of everybody. So they stole an E. Now they want to silence anyone who questions the F. And then look at what it says. This claim of EF is disputed, and this T can't be replied to, re-T'd, or liked due to a risk of V. Well, wait a minute. It's so ironic, isn't it? Like, they want to silence anyone who questions, and then look at what they say. And boom, now they take out 70, as you all know, I'm sure everybody knows this, over 70,000 accounts purged. This was on January the 12th. And this all started with him saying, you know, we're going to have a great voice. And, you know, God bless our president. I'm telling you, that we're going to get through this, folks. This is all going to be okay. It's a militarized zone over there, but things are not what it looks like. There's a whole lot of stuff, I think, going on that we're not really aware of. And I don't want to know, honestly. I don't want to know all the details. So then she tweeted this too. Dems call for violent R's, and the media calls them peaceful P's. Trump calls for peaceful P's, and the media says he calls for violent R's. There you go. It's so ironic. And I watched all the calls he made for peace, which again, if you remember what we said before, by ordering everyone to disperse, that is a necessary prerequisite to invoke this executive order, the Insur, you know what, act. So that's that, okay? So there's a lot of stuff going on here. All right. Here's another couple of tweets that were interesting where, and you know, I always look at the possibility that she's giving us some leading information, some leading clues. There's things she can't say. Maybe she needed to make it look like things are really bad because she can't say what's actually happening, but a lot of other people seem to be talking. The president concluded his 22-minute speech at the southern border with the words, "The safety of our country must come before politics." Well, there you go. You could double-click on that and expand on it and really think about it. The safety of our country must come before politics. That means it doesn't matter what it looks like or how crazy it is or how angry everybody gets. You've got to keep the country safe. And that's what he concluded it with, okay? So she's pointing out things you might not have seen. And then on the bottom, Free speech is under assault like never before. The 25th Amendment is of zero risk to me, but will come to haunt JB. As the expression goes, be careful what you wish for. So again, one of the things that could easily happen is the day after the 20th is when the 25th starts happening. And there's just no way, folks, honestly, oh, well, then it's going to be Harris. No. There's so much evidence. There's so much corruption. It's not going to last. I don't even worry about it, honestly. And when I see this idea that somehow just changing the president could like drop a new brain into the military and the brain just starts making it do whatever this other adversary of ours wants, that is not the United States, folks. That is not the brave men and women who fought and died for our freedom, including my own family members in the Revolutionary War. The founder of the Navy is my great-granduncle, all right? I know what I'm talking about. We're not going to give up. We have not yet begun to fight. Just as my great-granduncle said, okay, we have not yet begun. So don't believe for a minute that the military is just going to roll over for this. They're not. They never will. It's not going to happen. So again, this is another example of what you don't hear in the mainstream, where he's calling for no violence and no lawbreaking, and that was true. I saw it. Everybody saw it. So here's another one, and this is the actual statement that she retweeted, just so everybody can see it, on January 13th, where he says, in light of reports of more demonstrations, I urge that there must be no violence, no lawbreaking, and no vandalism of any kind. That is not what I stand for, and it is not what America stands for. I call on all Americans to help ease tensions and calm tempers. Thank you. Now, if your own president is telling you not to do anything, there's no secret code, there's no message slipped into your hand, there's no hidden thing under the table, okay? It's real. Why would he say don't go there, don't do anything? Because they've got it covered. You don't need, your president is telling you, you don't need to try to take the law into your own hands. Leave it the hell alone. Stay home. Don't get sucked into this stuff that's happening around the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, because it's looking like it's, people are being set up for this possible FF thing that's going to happen. So don't feel like you have to all of a sudden organize a grassroots second American Revolution. That's not what this is. There's a lot of people involved in this. They're going to take care of it. I'm not really that worried about it. I'm concerned about how this thing's going to go down. We hope it will go well. But hearing about Sealand containers hiding around anywhere in our country that could just pop open and shoot out these things, we better hope that the Patriots work well, and we better hope that none of them actually hit the targets. I think that we're going to be fine. And again, as I've said before, the capabilities that we have go far, far, far beyond what people realize. There are weapons that we have that will do 64,000 people a second with a laser through the medulla. 64,000 people a second. And those are run by, I'm getting in trouble now. The NRO, National Reconnaissance Office, has these satellites that are looking at you all the time. Every time you go outside, it looks at your face. There's facial recognition. It knows where you are. It's doing this for everyone on Earth. And when you go inside the house, it's tracking you by infrared. There is no such thing as anonymity. There is no such thing as hiding. There is no such thing as escaping. They can see your infrared. They know where you are. They can see your face. There's no way you can hide from this. They know where you are at all times, and they can dial in 64,000 kills a second. And I'm not kidding. Now, I don't think that this is a good thing, but I want you to be aware of the capabilities that I've been briefed on, that are classified, that do exist, because if you remember, that whole system, that weapons platform, was very prominently displayed in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. That's the whole point. These flying aircraft carriers in the movie, which look exactly like the real thing, had this particular system on it, and according to my former insider, who's now deceased, Pete Peterson, the actual head that you see in the movie is exactly what it really looks like. So if you want to see exactly what this weapon system is, what it looks like, and watch a whole movie built around that plot, just go watch Captain America: The Winter Soldier. In the movie, it didn't happen, but they showed you how everybody could be targeted with this. I don't know if the Alliance would use something like that, but I would wager that if anybody pops up and is trying to do some things, there's lots and lots of tools to put that problem down very, very quickly. So I'm not saying that I support this or that I would want this to happen, but you just should be aware that there's so many little magical tricks like that that nobody's ever heard of, and I really don't think we have to worry about this, folks. Okay, back to the slide. So, great. My wife says she fixed it. Do you want to tell everybody what you fixed real quick?
I fixed the, let's see, real-time streaming settings, even though it said not to. So.
Well, you knocked it down?
I did. I knocked it down to 360 real-time, and it
Uh-oh.
looks a lot better.
All right, well, we got a local copy that's still going to look good, so we can re-upload if we need to. Okay, well, as long as everybody's seeing it and it's not completely terrible looking, I support that.
It looks good.
Okay, good enough. All right, so back to the slide. He says, and this is Pompeo, he says, 1 week from today, I will be stepping aside as Sec of State, and this account will be archived. Be sure to follow me at Mike Pompeo. Go do it now. Now, why would he say it so forthrightly, January 13th? Okay, well, let's go over there. Let's go over there. And he actually had just created it. So the day after, he said, I may not be able to fit in my battle dress uniform anymore, but leading blankety blank in State Department, I constantly focused on protecting our great military and all Americans. If nothing else, our enemies knew. Attack our soldiers and you will pay. So again, this is the idea that, don't worry about it. We've got plenty of tools to use if anybody tries anything. So please don't try, because it's going to be sad if you guys try this. It's not going to work. You're going to be put down immediately. So don't bother, because it's just going to lead to a large loss of life, and nobody needs that. We really don't need that. So then he tweeted this, and this is just very recently. I put these slides together a few hours ago. It was 19 hours ago, so it was yesterday. So he hadn't said anything in a while. But then he said this: thank you, NYT, for recapping the great work we continue to do to keep America safe. So then here's what it says. Mr. Pompeo has not been idle. Over the past week, he unleashed a series of actions whose only real purpose appears to be, this is the key, appears to be to make life as difficult as possible for his successor at the State Department, or to set the stage for what's about to happen, which is what I think it is. He put Cuba back on the list of state sponsors of tea. That means there's probably something going on with Cuba we don't know about yet. He plans to designate the Houthi rebels in Yemen as a foreign tea organization. Maybe there's something going on there we don't know about yet. He eased restrictions on contacts between American diplomats and Taiwanese officials. That sounds like a particular adversary, and, trying to keep things a little bit calmer and stop any treason from occurring. And he claimed that Iran is a home base for Al-Q. Well, again, we've already heard about Iran. So all this stuff to me looks like it's setting up bigger things. So then I'm going back to her now, and this is from a few days ago. This is the account that was hers and then apparently other people were posting to it, and she is not responsible for its contents. So this account said, 2 ministers from the former Italian Prime Minister Renzi's party, Italia Viva, resigns. Italy's government officially enters into crisis mode. So this is exactly what we were expecting. We talked about Renzi last time and the alleged $400 million deal. 14 pellets, $400 million. I mean, this is insane. If this all comes out, it's going to be so amazing. So B may assume the office, but we already did that one before. Sorry, you already saw that one. And then here's an example of what I was talking about, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying on January 21st, 2021, the day after, I will be filing articles of impeachment against JB for abuse of power. Do you think really that this is ever going to last him, if he could even get in at all? Absolutely not. I don't believe it. So then, she's got a series of really cool quotes here. Being imped twice by the swamp just means you were effective in fighting their corruption. The second imp of President T done without a single hearing isn't about T, it's about you, Bruce Porter Jr. I would agree with that. The first quote was Rogan O'Handley. Then we have Brigitte Gabriel, who says, Imp President T was possibly the least unifying thing Speaker P could have done today. She doesn't care about America. She doesn't care about unity. She cares about revenge. And then last but not least, we have E-Wizard, and it says, The House eyed T for speech that falls well within the protection of the First Amendment, just like they eyed him for a phone call that fell well within his constitutional purview. The House has abused the Constitution and turned this process into a total mockery. So then, as you all well know, out came this whole situation. And this is an actual video that is still online right now. It's not available on the actual site anymore where it came from, as you can probably imagine. But this guy was brought on and was interviewed because he's the one who actually filmed the moment where the person was shot on January the 6th. You had people going in there, and as we've talked about now extensively, let's go over to this one for a little while. As we talked about extensively, this is a very, very, very strange situation. First of all, he does star in an Uber car commercial. That is an absolute fact. And let me mute the volume so that that's not going to play. So he did star in an Uber car commercial, and we know that he is an Olympic speed skater. So he's actually already a public figure. He's got a good thing going. He's, you know, I mean, a lot of people, if you do a commercial for a car company that's basically wiping out the middle class and giving people these horrible jobs, one could call you a sellout for that. And I actually think it's very important to point out that when I was in college, I had a lot of friends who were black. I had friends from Harlem. We smoked blunts, okay? I'm being honest with you, which is a cigar with cannabis in it. Just the outside wrapper, like a White Owl or a Philly. I did both. So I actually did hang out with people from the inner cities. I heard real gangster stories. I had one friend who had reformed, but he had actually shot someone, and he felt very badly about it. He didn't know why he did that. Afterwards, he started dreaming about the person. He had terrible problems. I had another friend who had cornrows, and he was a really big guy. I mean, he was 7 foot tall almost, and huge. And he used to tell me, he had tears in his eyes, telling me that he would walk into a store and women would clutch their purses when they saw him. And visibly, right in front of him, they'd look at him like this. And he'd say, you know, after a while, when this happens to you so much, you feel like, why shouldn't I just do a crime anyway? Because everybody's accusing me of it and punishing me for it as if I already did. And he didn't do this, but this is the kind of thoughts that ran through his mind. So I want to be clear that having had ongoing contacts with black people my whole life, that my father wrote books about, or wrote a biographical book on the bluesman Buddy Guy, who was the inspiration for Jimi Hendrix as a guitar player. Most people don't realize that, but Jimmy was actually emulating what Buddy Guy was doing with all this guitar fireworks and stuff. And there's a film of Jimi Hendrix recording Buddy Guy in the front row and being in awe as he holds up a microphone. So I met many of the top bluesmen growing up, Muddy Waters, B.B. King, you know, everybody you can think of. My father integrated with all of them. And so I feel qualified to say that most black people do not support what this guy did. And so when they look at something like this and then they see that he did an Uber commercial, they're going to call him a sellout. I'm very confident that he would be called a sellout by a lot of others. So I'm just going to leave it there. But the other thing that's weird is that the woman he's appearing with in this video, Jade Sacker, let's talk, I probably shouldn't say that name ever again. So she says, I am a photojournalist currently based in New York City, having recently graduated. Down here, she says, I set out to be a witness. My work is intended to create evidence. Well, that's because they're out there doing these things, right? So then, says right here, she was embedded with anarchist leader John during this Capitol, you know what, on January 15th. And then there it is again, intended to create evidence. So this is just another shot that was flying around at this time. This is a little bit out of order. We're going to come back to her in just a minute. I didn't have time to actually get this all organized fully. So going back to that giant voice thing, again, this is a mass notification system. The president made that leading statement suggesting the military is being mass notified, something's about to happen, and then all of a sudden his Twitter gets taken down. And what was happening was people like the ones we just saw there going into the Capitol on the 6th and doing this whole thing. Now Pompeo, this is a picture of him showing this particular group that is terror-oriented that comes up through the border. And this is one of the main reasons why they've been so worried about the border, because apparently the DS was using this group to do a lot of different things, possibly including Vegas, and all that is apparently going to come out. Now, another thing that is really interesting is that January the 19th, Tuesday, is National Popcorn Day. And why does that matter? Because popcorn has come up over and over again. As it says right here, this is why T always says, grab the popcorn and enjoy the show. Apparently there are many tweets where he said this. Well, is the reference to popcorn a reference to Tuesday the 19th? In other words, are things going to happen before then? Well, we're not going to have to wait long at all to know. But so the popcorn day happens to be the day before the 20th, which is the big inauguration. So something might be going down here. And grab the popcorn might have multiple layers. So there was a statement made about the idea that if Pompeo starts tweeting regularly, like in short intervals, that we should really be paying attention, because that there's this indication going on, and that has just started to happen in the last 5 hours. And I just took this picture. So again, suggests things are really close. He says the American people will demand it. I guess that means justice and truth. And then he has a Bible quote there. He said unto them, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. Now, what is that statement on the bottom? Well, think about it. Preach the gospel to everyone, to every person. Go into all the world and preach the gospel to everyone. Doesn't that sound a lot like the thing that I read at the beginning, where he had 3,333 views and 333 subscribers, where he was saying that he got this Air Force pilot, and the Air Force pilot sent an email to his father, and then that leaked online, and the idea that everybody in the world is going to hear about this, and it's a mass notification, right? So that suggests again that he's leading you, that everybody in the world is going to hear this quote-unquote gospel. Back to the slide. And then this is really hilarious. For a short time it was called supporters, and then it just became the Trumpist is what it is now. But it says the blue state LDs are disappearing 5 days before the 20th. Truly a miracle. Wink, wink. Obviously it's not a miracle. They're just trying to get you to feel better about what's going on and what they're doing, but it's not going to work. So Sully's brother, who turned him in, said his brother and anti-you-know-what, planned this to change the public opinion against T supporters and to create A in the country. Now, according to a lot of different things that I've seen and heard, the brothers, let's go back to a camera. The brothers' testimony was 226 members that were not at all supporting the president, that were led by this one dude, John Sully. He was actually their leader. This is what the brother said. He's turned over all this evidence, and we're going to see more about Sully in a minute here. It's pretty shocking. So let's go now back to the slide, and we're going to go now to January the 15th. And one of the things that we've been promised for so long, the all-important D-class, apparently has now begun. And there's lots of different aspects to this. This was also the day before the Pindar died, as we were talking about. There's lots and lots of hint dropping that some big news about a particular country is going to come out, because it says right here, U.S. Department of State, January 15th, fact sheet, activity at this particular Institute of Virology in the town that you know well, starting with a W. But wait a minute. That's supposed to be where this whole thing started that we've been suffering from. So what are they really going at here? Well, let's look at this tweet, and you're going to start to see more. Here we go. Posobiec says, breaking, the U.S. has determined that the W Institute of V engaged in classified research, including laboratory animal experiments, on behalf of the military since at least 2017. Well, let's think about it. If you got a virology institute and you're doing military classified research, let's try to do the math here. It's kind of hard. I know you might have smoke come out of your ears, but what do you think a virology lab could do with scientific classified research for the military? And then it says at the bottom, the WV, or whatever that is, WIV, has published a record of conducting gain-of-function research. Isn't that nice? To engineer chimeric Vs. Gain of function meaning let's build something that gains us a function we didn't already have, I guess. We want to gain a function. Well, what's the function? Well, taking over the world would be a good one. But the WIV has not been transparent or consistent about its record of studying viruses most similar to coup. There you go. It's unbelievable. Then at the same day, the same exact day, the 15th, something we've been hearing about for so long, the F, I-S, and then there's the last letter, declassified. Back to the slides. That we've been hearing about this forever, and I actually haven't even had a time to go through this, but it came out, Committee for the Judiciary Abuse Investigation. Chairman Graham, this January 15th, as you can see, released 11 transcripts of interviews conducted during the Senate Judiciary Committee's inquiry into the origins and aftermath of the hurricane investigation. Well, I haven't had time to go through this yet, but already people are saying that there's a lot of stuff in there and it's connecting a lot of dots. There's much, much more to come. They have been fighting this coming out for so long, it's amazing that it finally happened at all, honestly. So then this is the whole thing where you can pause this and read it, but this is how apparently Sydney had some kind of falling out. As it says here, we wanted to use this channel as a supporter fan channel of Ms. Powell. However, there were some disagreements in how to manage the channels. We have now decided to change the channel name to something else. It's now called this. Everything will remain the same. We just changed the name. Ms. Powell is not responsible for the contents posted here on this channel. Thank you for your endless support, Zeke. And he's the guy that runs this app that we've been talking about. So that's important. I just want to put that in. Now, this is another thing that she tweeted. Will Uber issue a public statement on Sully since they filmed a commercial with him? So this is pretty shocking, folks, but I want you to see this. I don't believe we're going to have any audio on it, but I just want you to watch the commercial because this is true. Oops. And why is it not playing? Is it playing for you? Let's see. Is the commercial playing? Can you see? Look at at my camera number 8 on the screen.
8's not playing. It began playing though.
It did begin playing. Is it playing now?
It's not playing now.
It's not playing now. All right. So let's try this again. Is it playing now?
No.
How about now?
Yes. Yes.
So as you can see here, I'm not making this up. This is actually real. He's talking about how he's a skater. You see him on the ice, and then you see him in the car with his friends, and he's promoting this particular company. So this is a guy who got a lot of mainstream attention, okay? Olympiad and, mainstream television commercials. And we're going to get back to him in a minute, even more, because I'm just shocked by all this, honestly. So here's another comment that, again, the 888 kind of made me, want to grab it. 55 replies, repeating digits, I like those. This is not what it looks like when you win an E fair and square. Another thing that we're now seeing, this video came out, a lot of people saw this, a major overflight of 10 different military helicopters near, I guess, the D.C. area, although we're not really sure where this is. But here we have some shots of it. So this is like the first shot, like 7 seconds in. So you see the first, second, and third choppers there. And then after all those pass, then we have this. So these are more coming. And then as you see, there's even more coming. I now got to the end of that group. And then we have another set coming in here. And now in the back, you see the V-22 Ospreys with the double rotors. I mean, these are amazing helicopters that can hold a lot of troops, folks, and drop them in. And that's also our title slate. I used that for the title slate. This is not normal. This is not what we would be expecting to have in a typical situation. This is very unusual, not just for what would normally happen on the 20th, and supposedly it's going to be virtually, he's not even there. So it really looks like some things are setting up here. Now back to the slide. Here's another one about the FIS you know what, and this I'm just showing you the coverage of this on the 15th. And then some statements from Graham where he says, the court was lied to. Exculpatory information was withheld on those being investigated. The leadership of the F under C and M was either grossly incompetent or they knowingly allowed tremendous misdeeds. There was a blind eye turned toward any explanation other than the T campaign was colluding with foreign powers. So now we're going to get to the incriminating texts from Sully that appeared on a discussion group called Discord. He was not being careful about his real intention. Now remember, he's in the Uber commercial, he's a champion speed skater, and he was on CNN giving a very kind of mundane interpretation of what was happening at the Capitol, as if he wasn't involved in anything that scary or evil. He was just there to walk in and see what was going on. That's not what he was saying on Discord. Look at this. He says, the protest will happen all over the nation at everybody's state capital. So that means organized, nationwide, multi-state effort. That's very frightening. I bet in some of the more conservative states it will be a stronger presence. All of this will be happening at your state capital all over the nation. It's about to get crazy. So that's very disturbing. And then... So somebody else here that was interacting with him said, I was in the front line of the battle and know who was there personally. It was a large sum of anti-Ts. Now, supposedly, this was all T supporters, right? Well, here's somebody saying, no, and this whole narrative, by the way, is now fallen apart. It's all collapsing, that this was not being done by people that support POTUS, but exactly the opposite. So... Then here he says, yeah, he ended up plotting this and it stirred up some S on the 6th. Wait, so does that mean all the T supporters were right? Okay. And then here's another one where somebody is actually giving the finger to the T supporters behind their back and they're all laughing about it. F the cops. And then he says, hey, sorry, the signal here is being jammed, counter intel. So here he is, actually, after he'd broken inside these buildings with his T hat on. Clearly he's not a T supporter, and he says that he was doing counterintelligence. And then he photographs this, which still doesn't really show the bad stuff, and he says he's battle ready. This is on Discord. And now he's showing that he's got body armor. And then look at this. We have to show, he says at Randolph, we have to show up in full gear tonight, and look at the full gear. Look at the full gear. He's got a very large automatic. Wait a minute. I thought you guys were against all that stuff. And then he says ready for tomorrow. Now look at what he's got here. He's clearly got a Glock there. Glock, I'm not sure which type that is, but oh my goodness. And then he's got this big old, look at that ammo box. I mean, how many rounds are going to be in that thing? A lot. No matter how you look at it, that's a lot of ammo, right? So, and he says he's ready for tomorrow. And he puts the fist up. So this guy is ready to go out there and start shooting people. And remember, his brother said he's leading 226 others. And apparently this is where some of it was being organized. So he says, when you are a well-known organizer, you need to blend in. I had to wear a T hat and shirt. And then somebody really funny said, yeah, putting on a T hat does not make him blend in. It makes him look like a well-known activist who was attempting to instigate a narrative. Bad move. And then he says, well, it could be me and could not be me, I'm just saying. And then somebody says, yeah, but it's on your channel. And he says, no, you don't get what I'm saying, the voice. So this is another interesting thing, because it's January the 8th. This is after it happened. He's trying to say that he wasn't talking BS. I mean, everybody knows it was him. You can hear his voice. So then he's showing, again, here some useful maps for counterintelligence. And he's doing a map of the federal buildings, military, and courts in D.C. Then here he says, I'll be out for sure. F them. They can catch a bullet if they try some S. So he's clearly planning on doing something violent. So, you know, and then this person is saying, oh, at the bottom, I'm a bulk ammo dealer, if that's of any help, Jaden X. Oh, my God. You can read all this. And then he's talking about how to set up a burner phone. You can read all that on your own time. I'm not going to go through all this. And here he's saying no fascists. Insurgents USA is the name of his group. And that's what he's doing this with. He's prepared for the possibility of that maybe they themselves were going to do this, or somebody else, they were worried that it might happen to them. My goodness, right? He's tweeted all that. And then he's showing you this picture of the nationwide rally, and then at the bottom he says this. And look at, obviously they're indicating you should bring all these kinds of things. He said, I just got new intel about T-Insur, a Second Amendment rally will be staged for on January So there you go. How did he get new intel? Who is giving him this intel? Who is organizing this rally? And who is really behind it? Well, obviously we know, because he's the one doing all this stuff. And he says, LOL, this is going to be a war on this one. And then here he takes a picture of himself and actually did a video. Now, this is what's so funny. As of right now, at this exact second, this is still online. It will probably disappear very fast. So if you want to go look at this, you got to do it right now. I'm literally not kidding. Go look it up right now, where he says, here is a full guide on how to keep yourself safe during Ps and DAs. And there's his channel. You can see the name of the channel. You can see he's got 4,000 subscribers. That's, you know, I got a lot more than that. So I guess doing Uber and being an Olympiad and being a sellout doesn't frickin' mean you're going to be popular, because this is nonsense. So there he is. You can clearly see his eyes, folks. And now he's showing you this mask, and then he's showing you how he likes the other one better, because and he's showing you all this stuff on his own channel with his own name, with his own face. This is so annoying. And he does not represent black people, folks. Everybody is so pissed off at him right now. Do not assume for a minute that he is supported by others, because I do not believe he is. Everybody is so mad about this. Now look at this. He literally has the gun there in the room. You can watch the video for however long it lasts. He goes over, he picks it up, he demonstrates it, he talks about how he's going to be carrying it. He's wearing his body armor, he's wearing his mask. Here he is again carrying it. And then, oh, by the way, since that's not enough, he's also going to have a sidearm right there. So here he's putting his sidearm into a holster. And then he also shows you that he just so happens to have a nice switchblade. This is not a guy who's going there to be peaceful. This is a guy who's going there to kill. Okay? It's very important that we see this. So isn't it hilarious that he goes on to this particular news network and acts like, oh, he was just a peaceful protester, not thinking anybody would go back and watch this video. Well, guess what? We did. Now, here's another thing that happened. This was fairly recent. I think it was on Friday the 15th, where it says the CEO, Michael Lindell of MyPillow, was apparently going to have a meeting with POTUS, and he was carrying these notes in his hand before going into the West Wing on January 15th. So this is the same day that all this D-Class happened. And then it says, MyPillow CEO visits T in Oval Office carrying mysterious notes. Now look at this. We're going to see what the notes said in just a second, but notice that once they meet with each other, the article says they never talked about the contents of his letter, and they're clearly happy, and he gives him the thumbs up, and he leaves, and he's fine. Before he went in there, he's looking very, very nervous. This is one picture of him holding these papers, but the real key photograph in question is here. He did not realize anybody was photographing him, and he didn't realize that we would be able to zoom in on this piece of paper that he was holding, folks. If you haven't already seen this, it's mind-blowing. Because here's what actually happens. I'm going to zoom in now. You tilt it, and you can see the text, and then we're going to zoom in even more. Something be taken immediately to save the blank Constitution. Now, I can't really read the name. It looks like Ceylon or something, Ceylon colon, I'm not sure. Now, as acting national security, blank with getting the evidence of all the blankety blank as the election, there we go, and all information regarding ... among people he knows who already have security, have done massive research on these issues in Fort Meade. Now that's in case you don't know this, folks, Fort Meade is where we research biological things and where we manufacture them. So he's clearly talking about something related to that. And then it says here, going on, he is an attorney with cyber expertise and is up to speed on issues. Then you can see Action Act, the something act, we know what that is, now. So he wants this act to be signed now. As a result of the assault on the ... martial law if necessary upon the first hint of any. So you see where this is going? Actions taken immediately to save the country and Constitution. He's asking for somebody to be made national security, some kind of attorney, background with cyber expertise, Fort Meade, and then declare the act now as a result of this assault and martial if necessary upon the first hint. And then the bottom of it, he has these names: Sidney P., Bill Olson, Kurt Olson, move Kash Patel to CI acting, and then something foreign interference in the E, trigger emergency powers, make clear this is C/Iran to be used in domestic actors, instruct Frank on evidence of the more broad, and then amount, evidence, attorney, that's all we can see, that's it. So I was trying to find a name that might match what it looks like he was saying there. Maybe this has something to do with it. The new director of this organization, obviously, if JB is putting him in, he's going to be very swampy. So that was a very, very curious thing. Now, despite the fact that he went in with this piece of paper that had all this stuff in writing, they apparently didn't talk about it. And if you look at the image here again, he's giving the president the thumbs up and they're all smiling, and he walked out and he was happy. So it seems very likely that some kind of information was conveyed to him in light of that packet of paper that he was carrying. And the information essentially said, don't worry about it. Because you wouldn't be smiling and giving the thumbs up if you had that urgent of a message for the president if nothing was going to go down. And if the president tells you, well, yeah, we're all screwed and we're about to get invaded, so just kind of go home and, stock up on food and water. That's not what happened at all. He's very happy. Look at this picture again. They are grinning ear to ear. So what's going on here? It's very curious. And that was on the 15th. So now this is what everybody saw. This said 37,000 retweets, 52,000 likes. Breaking. This particular company's Jade S. penetrating the Capitol with a member of ... cheering, "We did it," and then asking her conspirator if he was filming. He said he would delete it, and he lied. Well, thanks a lot. And they were all in on it. So, and then you're seeing, I'm showing you a slide of the video where you can see that here they are walking right through the middle of the building, and they're all excited about it. And he said, "Oh, I couldn't tell you anything. I couldn't tell you about this, but yeah, we knew this was going to happen." Something like that. And then here's another shot of him, as he's panning around, and they broke in. So why not take this guy who's got the Uber commercial and he's an Olympiad, and then bring him on CNN? Just put him up there with Anderson and get them all talking. So here's the thing. And you can see right here, the breaking news: USC secured, woman dead after Rs stormed halls of C to try to block ... win. So one of the ways that you can tell if people are lying is that they look up like this in the middle of while they're talking, because it has to do with like if you study neurolinguistic programming, and I only know a little bit about it. I've never really studied it. I knew a couple people who learned about it, and they told me a few things. But one of the things I remember them telling me is that you will look at different parts of the sky or the area around you depending on what part of your brain you're using. So if you look to the left, it means one thing. If you look to the right, it means another thing. But when you look straight up, that's one of the most dead giveaways that you're lying. It's very commonly known. You talk to any forensic analyst, any interrogator, they all say this. So let's count. how many times Sully blinks in a 4-minute spot on this particular network. Here we go. Blink number 1 comes at 18 seconds in. Wah, wah, there he goes. He's trying to get it all together. He's got to keep all those lies straight in his head. Blink number 2 happens at 30 seconds, and notice the time here. And by the way, look at also Anderson's face, because it never really changes. Anderson keeps the same face the whole time. There he's got his eyes closed. Blink number 2 is at 30 seconds. There he is looking up again, and Anderson's got the same face. Blink number 3 is at 47 seconds, and there he is looking up again, and Anderson's got the same face. He's trying to keep the story straight. Blink number 4, 1 minute and 58 seconds. There he is looking up yet again. Anderson's got the same face. And then last but not least, here is blink number 5 at 3 minutes and 8 seconds. And he is looking straight up. And I just want to give you a kind of a Anderson. Is that a good Anderson face? What do you think?
Not so.
Not so much?
So much. Not so much. Just a little like constipated.
How about that? No, that's not really good.
His eyes up. His mouth is just.
How about that? You like that?
Not happy.
The mouth is not happy. So.
Just not so hard.
Oh, okay, a little bit less.
Yeah, it's closer. Yeah.
Thank you, Anderson. Thank you for making me laugh. And how cool are you, my sellout friend, if you're appearing with Anderson Vanderbilt? Did you know that? Go back to the slide, please. Do you think it's fun? You think it's fun talking to the people that you think you're against? Well, guess what? Guess who his mom is, everybody? I'm so sad, because apparently mom squandered away $200 million and he's only getting 1.5. My heart bleeds for you, Anderson. I'm really sorry. But she remarried somebody named Cooper. He took that name because, he probably didn't want the association with one of the top cabal names. Just call me crazy. But, yeah, it's really, really cool to go on with a Vanderbilt on a cable news network. Way to go, buddy. So then we see this. And again, I hope Sully does the right thing. I'm just going to put that out there. Sully, if you want to come forward, as I always say, if you're ready to do the right thing, I will support you. If you're ready to testify, if you're ready to talk about everything, tell us who it was, who told you, who gave you the intel, who gave you the briefings, who taught you what to buy, who taught you what to get, who taught you how to use it, who taught you that you needed to have a burner and how to wipe the phone, who taught you that you had to wear this riot gear, who told you that they were going to let you in. Where did this come from? If you're willing to say all that stuff, John, I will forgive you. Other people might not, but I will. I'm willing to give you your props. I'm willing to give you your honor. But you got to do something for us, man. You can't just act like this is no big deal. That whatever you were planning is they're using you, buddy. And if you can't see that, go look at his arrest photo. And look at his eyes. I didn't even get a chance to put this in there. But he's like this, and that's a typical thing that has to do with hypnosis. When people are hypnotized and when they go into that state where they will listen to commands, that's exactly what it looks like. Go look at his inmate photo and then also notice all the 6s in the photo. There's lots of 6s in that photo. So, we'll forgive you, buddy, just like we will with anybody. We're going to, the scope and the massiveness of the criminality that we're going to be learning about is so high that we need people to come forward who are deeply involved. And we need to give them a chance to actually earn their freedom, or at least to earn clemency and a much reduced sentence. So I hope for Sully's sake that he can do that he's willing to tell us the truth. Because honestly, if you watch the interview that he did with Anderson Vanderbilt, he clearly is saying that, there were police officers who were fearing for their lives. They were crying, and he was telling people, I don't want you to get hurt. So whoever trained him did not get him enough kills, apparently, or maybe not any kills, because he didn't have the stomach for it. And I don't want there to be people who do, but I do think it's interesting that even somebody that far involved, who they've given him his own commercials, they've given him probably lots of money, and all this support and logistics, and I don't think he paid for those tools he's got himself, obviously. This needs to be talked about. It needs to be talked about. How the hell did he end up on this news network? And that the woman he was with has been a correspondent for them before. And we're supposed to believe there's no connection? And we're supposed to think about what happens in 10 days, 1 year, 5 years, when this kind of stuff is going on right now. It's irreversible. There's no turning back. They are caught red-handed, and it's unbelievable. And something is going to happen. So again, going back to the slide, we saw this coming out, that this particular country gave $400 million. There's the same number again to this particular company before the USE. So this is all coming out, and again, this is right around the 15th. We saw this one from the 8th already, the order of succession from the corporation, meaning that they are actually breaking off. And then, as I said, you know, they got all these levels of people that could succeed, that could secede. This is really fascinating. Again, it suggests that the corporation will be needing a lot of staff because they're all going to be arrested or worse. So here was the Pompeo thing again. We already went through all this, so I don't need to do this again. Okay, so now getting back up to Pompeo, he dropped this particular code. I'm not even going to say it out loud, red and then a number, because this is very, very hot stuff, folks. This was on the 14th, and he did it in a particular tweet that he gave on his own channel, which I didn't see. I had to pull it off of this. Now, I know that mentioning him also is going to probably get him a lot of flack, and I apologize in advance, but he's already got a lot of views. You see 450,000 views on this one. He is one of the best, and he's stayed positive. He is not caved into fear. And also Dave Hayes, great job, Dave. Thank you. You did a wonderful job on this, and so both of these videos I think are essential watching. And you know where to go. It's a .com on the word that you see at the top left. It's all there for you. Just type in that on the search bar and you'll get it. So in this particular video, and I'm not going to show you the footage, but I'm just going to show you the actual tweet here. We have these 6 bottles of red wine. Red and then the number 6. Well, that actually means something, folks. So, and this was off of the secretary Twitter thing just before they took him down. And so this doesn't exist anymore. You can't see it anymore because it's not the private one, the Mike Pompeo. It's the main one. And he says, L'chaim to Pompeo wine. But then the hashtag is justice in Samaria. Justice. So red and then 6 is associated with justice. Well, then you got to understand what EAM means. It's emergency access management, because this is all going to be relevant in just a second. So bear with me. We got red, and then we got the number 6, and then we got EAM, and it says that it ensures your company's policies to manage emergency access. Okay, so here's what you really need to see. EAM, Emergency Access Management, is being used for firefighters, and so obviously it would apply to other government agencies as well. So firefighter, firefighter ID, firefighting, centralized firefighting, and all this is talking about how they use this emergency system to message each other as emergencies are going on. But this obviously is being used not just by fire, but also military, because this is the all-important quote number 4414 from the infamous and mysterious number 17, where it says EAM loyalists. Now, this is people on the inside, I believe. I'm just going to speculate, okay? Loyalists who are loyal to the alliance agenda and who are going to be using the emergency access messaging system. So then he has these series of reds. There's 1 through 6. Each of them, and we've had a lot of people look at this, and you can hear more about that in the video I just gave with the guy Dave from before, where this looks like a command sheet for the military, where they have very, very advanced operational planning that can take years, where each plan has a code name, and that's what the reds appear to be. So these would represent events that could happen on Earth, and once they happen, it triggers a particular contingency plan that has a name like red and then a number. So let's look at what are these disasters that might happen that would trigger these very, very big plans. The first one is if the Prez is taken off of Twitter. Well, that's exactly what just happened. So number 1 has happened. Number 2 is a central communications blackout in the continental U.S. Well, that hasn't really happened, but almost everybody who is talking about this on social media has been banned. You saw that. So that kind of fits, and so that's probably been triggered. Number 3 is class movement of P or Pence. Now, class movement, there's been a lot of speculation on this. Class probably means classified. Movement could mean some type of movement to, we don't really know, maybe to suppress classified stuff from coming out. That's probably what it is. Or that they move from a position that they were expected to have. If they were expected to only do one thing and then they go do something else that's a lot worse, which appears to have happened, that triggers number 3. Well, what's number 4? Movement of military assets to central locations in the U.S. under the guise of citizen R control. Okay, well, that's also happened, right? Because now we're seeing it all around D.C. So that's red, and then the number 4. And we have 10th Mountain 1st Marine, all that stuff, all these codes, so these different things. And then number 5, National Military Command Center. Now, what that could indicate is the possibility that the command center itself is invaded or attacked or even maybe blown up, because they have to have continuity of government. So that's something they have to prepare for, the possibility that the entire command center could be completely wiped out. That does not appear to have happened. But then you have number 6, and remember, there's only 6. There's no additional plans here. Secretary of Defense Instruct 1. Now that again looks like a code that says the Secretary of Defense is going to be instructed to do something. Well, what would the Secretary of Defense be instructed to do? Well, of course, it would be finish the job and do the mass arrest. So number 6 appears to be a code saying to do the mass arrest. USSS appears to be Secret Service, and Castle Rock appears to be the name of these friendly groups in the military that are going to be carrying these operations out under the guideline of 6. So we know what 6 with a red color is, and then look at this again, folks, now that you have all that context, because here he is tweeting 6 bottles of red wine, which is clearly that code. And remember, there is nothing after number 6. So we are at the end. And what does it say at the beginning? It's going to all be about the emergency access messaging system. So this is very important. And this was from June of last year. So they laid all this out for you. And then here he is. I stretched it out to the way it looked originally before it was taken down, just so you can see it even more. This is very, very exciting. And again, everybody's saying grab the popcorn, grab the popcorn. Well, the day after Monday, which is when we're hearing a lot of prognostications of weird stuff, that's tomorrow. That's grab the popcorn day. So again, all these plans can change. Here's the proof that it is National Popcorn Day. But there are indeed multiple instances of the president saying grab your popcorn. And when I looked it up, there's 5 instances of this in the 17 posts. The first one was right at the beginning. Right at the beginning. October 31st, almost from the first day, just 2 or 3 days after it started. Get the popcorn. Friday and Saturday will deliver on the promise. POTUS knows he must clean house in order to free up and demonstrate who has the authority in order to pass important legislation. This was always a priority. Remember, the Attorney General Sessions cannot look like an impartial player who is out to get all former O's team members. We need him for other important work. All will come into focus. And for anyone to think POTUS is not in control is kidding themselves. Also, he's 100% insulated with zero risk of impeachment. Fact. Well, that's been true, and this was a long time ago. So they say get the popcorn, and it's all associated with all of this will come into focus, and important legislation will be passed, and the president knows he must clean house. So then here's the next one, where it says at the bottom, no MSM coverage, got popcorn. So, and then it's saying the EU putting sanctions on Iran, leaders of the European Union only care about protecting the flow of money, not the safety and security of their people or the world. So now we can expect a lot of them are going to be involved in this. The Iran deal orchestrated for the sole purpose of lifting sanctions blockade to allow access of foreign businesses for individual and co-wide enrichment. It's a scam. Oh, the cover story is that it has nothing to do with NU you-know-what. And then pallets of cash from Hussein, which is actually our former leader, former president. Pallets of cash. Now we know what that means. Secret authority to convert U.S. dollars. So apparently he could print his own money. More coming. No mainstream coverage, got popcorn. So again, popcorn is associated with when this story of the pallets of cash comes out, and it has just come out. Then we have this one. You asked for popcorn. Let's start here. And then Nunes is saying grab the popcorn. Can anyone tell me who the DOJ lawyer is that speaks French via text in the IG report? This will save a lot of time in the hearings this week, so my colleagues don't want to have to ask the question. So the IG report, again, they were hoping this would cause popcorn, and now it's all coming to a head. Rosenstein attempts to stall the D-class effect, but this has failed, so now D-class is happening, and he says, got popcorn, enjoy the show. Well, now we get D-class right before National Popcorn Day. Literally 3 or 4 days before, 4 days before. And then here's another one where he says, got popcorn. Now, we're at 8 o'clock, and we started at like 6:15, and so I'm going to keep this as quick as I can for you guys so you don't get stuck with me forever. But I was very concerned about a couple of private briefings that I got that were suggesting maybe this whole thing isn't going to work out. Maybe it's all going to be a big, big problem. Maybe we're not going to get what we want out of it. Maybe the president doesn't have any options. I don't really think that's true. I would understand how that kind of thing might be released to keep it very quiet and to make it look, you must appear weak in the art of war, right? And we talked about that he's the president's a master chess player, and Wood had a tweet like that. And Wood's been saying, look, the arrests are going to happen. I mean, he knows. And the MyPillow guy comes out smiling, and he was calling for it in the paper that you saw in his hand. So I don't think with the giant voice thing that he said, and then his Twitter gets immediately taken down, and the 6 bottles of red wine, and it corresponds to this code that's the last code left when they do the final operation. That's the 6th one, the last one. And the deadline, and grab your popcorn, the 19th, it's all clustering around here. And it's incredible. So I was very concerned about the possibility that this whole thing might not work out. And then I remembered that I actually had gotten a reading when I was in Canada. And that reading said something in it that suggested that it might appear that the president was not going to win the election. And so that made me very interested. Now, I am going to talk about this a little bit. Let's go over to the other camera here. I'm just going to have it in the background here. This is my book, Awakening in the Dream. We've got it not so subtly planted. It is planted. I don't usually do that, folks. I don't put it there. You put it there, yeah. You want to take credit for that? That's great. Thank you, because I didn't actually do that. But anyway, in this book, what I'm talking about is the idea of how my career started, because I did not start as a guy who talks about politics or anything having to do with this kind of stuff. I started as a straight-ahead UFO researcher, and all I talked about was UFOs. And I had been passionately researching UFOs since I got a disclosure event back in 1993 from a friend of mine whose college professor was the head of the physics department. And that college professor told him in a private 2-hour conversation that UFOs are real, that they crashed here, that we've gotten the technology, and that we've been able to do reverse engineering on it. And from that, we have things like fiber optics, because, you know, it's a glass tube that shoots photons through. Laser beams apparently came from these ships, infrared night vision, computer chips, the whole computer revolution. They found it in these ships and they reproduced it. LED lights, Kevlar, which is the bulletproof vest material, which apparently Sully was happy to have. Saran wrap is another one. Actually, it's apparently an alloy of calcium, copper, and gold. So when I heard all this, that all this technology that we now take for granted was actually part of a divine or celestial endowment, if you will, it always suggested to me that somebody wanted us to have this technology. They wanted us to build the internet. They want us to have global decentralized communication before certain events take place. So that's why I think benevolent, positive beings might be out there and would plant this in our world, because it gave us the technology that would ultimately lead to our freedom to overthrow the bonds of tyranny. The internet is what's given us that. The internet has given us free, open communication, and now they're trying to crack it down, but it's way too late. They should have done that like 10, 15 years ago if they wanted to really stop this. But for a long time, you know, you could just talk about whatever you wanted. So in my new book here, I talk about a particular type of extraterrestrial that is very, very well known to people inside the secret government programs. They've called them various names. They call them the elders. They call them the midwayers. They call them the tall whites. Now, tall white doesn't mean one species. There's several different types of people, because that's what ETs really are. They're human. This is one of the things you're going to learn. There's several different types of people who are called tall whites. Just like they would call insectoid type of ETs. They'd call them derivative terms like crickets or bugs. They have funny and derisive names for everyone. So people are like, well, I know who the tall whites are. Well, no, you don't, because actually it means several different types. But there is one type of tall white that our government is very familiar with because they've had extensive interaction with them. And this type is human-looking. They could be the same height as we are, or they could be taller. And they have all the different characteristics of each race here on Earth. Their eyes are a little bit bigger than ours, just slightly, not too much, but enough that they look a little different, a little unique. And they typically have, a lot of them have white hair or blonde hair, but again, you have blacks, you have Latinos, you have Asians, all within this group. So calling them tall whites, again, is ridiculous, but that's just what our government did way back in the day in these secret programs. What I argue in the new book is that these so-called tall whites, the human-looking ones, are actually what the Bible would call angels, and other ancient culture traditions would also call angels. That the angels are real, and they're actually human extraterrestrials. Because if you go back into these, like Scripture, for example, go into the Old Testament and look at when Moses was getting conversation with Yahweh. And Yahweh is reported as a physical human being that Moses could touch his back as he was leaving. So, and then they talk about in the Old Testament, the ships of Yahweh number in the thousands. His glory is in the skies. And I've done a whole big thing on this. This is not that talk. But suffice it to say that we have brave hero astronauts like Dr. Edgar Mitchell who have gone forward, along with many others like Robert Hastings in the National Press Club event in 2011, all coming forward to say that benevolent extraterrestrials are here, that there are certain ETs that are operating with craft in our airspace, that they are positive, they're very spiritual people, they're essentially sort of religious, I guess, except that they don't really have a religion, they have a knowing of what the truth is, and that they have been appearing all throughout human history to different cultures, different times, different places, to instruct us, to try to make us more ethical, more peaceful, more loving. Well, I ended up, as a result of hearing about all this and reading this particular book by Dr. Courtney Brown called Cosmic Voyage, a very, very stunning experience that I describe in Awakening the Dream in great detail. And that experience is that after reading Dr. Courtney Brown's book, Cosmic Voyage, it was immediately validated by a separate source. Now, this is a source that he never heard about, and he still hadn't heard about it when I emailed him while writing my book last year. So Dr. Brown's book, Cosmic Voyage, describes him practicing a technique called remote viewing. And he describes in the book that the remote viewing protocols were developed originally in the 1970s with professional psychics, starting with guys like Ingo Swann, another guy who actually wrote the book that got me starting to do my own psychic experiments. Actually, I read it when I was 7 years old originally. It's called How to Make ESP Work For You by Harold Sherman. Harold Sherman was another part of this remote viewing team. So what Dr. Brown goes on to report is that there are a series of protocols for remote viewing. There's a series of things that you do that allow you to get two random numbers. I think it's two, or might only be one. And that's your coordinates. And somebody else has assigned a target to those coordinates, but then you don't know who that person is, and the number is assigned to the coordinate by somebody else. So all you get is a number. You have no other information. And yet, trained remote viewers, given a coordinate, like let's say the number is 05989 or whatever, 05989 could refer to a particular location. So they have a joke in there that they would send people to the sewage treatment plant in Fort Meade, Maryland. And so what would happen is you write down this number, you go into the remote viewing process, which is a very deep trance, and there's certain protocols that are extremely important. You have to always be putting out data. You You get yourself to a deep, deep trance state, and you take everything that comes into your mind as soon as it does. You don't question anything. You don't analyze it. You don't try to understand it. It's very important that it remains encrypted, and you can get to a point where your mind is so deeply out there that it doesn't come through to you consciously what you're saying. And that's extremely important. The protocol is you shouldn't understand what you're getting. And that's easier said than done. That's what makes it so difficult. As Carla Ruckert, the channel for the Law of One, said, it is very easy to do channeling. It is very difficult to do channeling well. Lots and lots of people have said they're channeling. 99% of it is nonsense. However, you go back into history and you look at the work of Edgar Cayce, the noted American psychic, and he did 14,000 medical readings where he was hypnotized and he did not remember what he was saying. But in that hypnotic state, he would have omniscient intelligence. He would diagnose people's medical problems even though they didn't tell him what it was. He would give a full diagnosis and he would prescribe a treatment. And the treatment involved a holistic solution, mind-body medicine. So with that said, the Cayce readings there's over 600 or 700 books that have been written on them. They had enormous prophetic accuracy, and anybody who actually does a serious, credible study of Edgar Cayce knows that this stuff could not possibly have been faked. He didn't know what the people's medical conditions were, but then he speaks, and they know what it is, and he's able to prescribe treatments that saved people who otherwise were not going to make it. So we know that there are historical examples of quote-unquote remote viewing working. Professional remote viewers trained under these protocols get a 99% accuracy rating. That's astonishing. So what I found out from Dr. Pete Peterson is that he was involved, this is one of my insiders who's since deceased, he was involved in the early stages of the development of remote viewing. And he said that in the beginning, when they were training people on how to do these practices, everybody started hearing these calm, quiet, kind of almost you can't really tell what it's saying, but it's in the background, these voices that you would hear, and they would start documenting what the voices said. Now what they found out was that these voices were coming from these beings that they called tall whites. And in Dr. Courtney Brown's book, he actually said that the people in the remote viewing program had extensive experience with the tall whites. And then by the time his second book came out, he admitted that the person who trained him was none other than Major Ed Dames, who was Dr. Doom, and he was on Art Bell all the time. So they sought out Dr. Brown because he's a sociologist, and they felt that with his knowledge of social systems that he would better to be able to understand extraterrestrial cultures he was looking at. So Dr. Brown in this book remote views a civilization that apparently was on Mars, where they showed him a picture of what looks like a possible pyramid on the surface. He remote views it, not knowing what it was. It was a blind target. And he reports these people seeing a gigantic pyramid and their planet is being destroyed. The people looked, he said the culture was similar to like that of Africa. And then a new group showed up, which he identified as being gray ETs. They looked like grays. They were in a ship above the planet, and they started what he called packaging everyone very quickly to bring them away from the planet to safety before the planet was destroyed. So then I go and I read The Law of One, the very next book I read after putting down Cosmic Voyage, and in The Law of One it describes a civilization that was on Mars that was packaged at the end of their cycle genetically and moved. It's literally identical information. So I walk you through for the first time ever how The Law of One validated all these things that I was seeing in Dr. Brown's book, and how it also validates this notion of the so-called tall, white, human-looking ETs. Well, this is not something that gets me a lot of friends on the internet. The haters love this kind of stuff. But the way that I started was that I was writing down my dreams every morning, beginning on sometime in October 1992. And after years of doing that, in 1996, 4 years later, 4 years later, this is when I read Dr. Brown's book. This is when I read The Law of One. And The Law of One, as I said, validated so many other things that I had been studying before that. And in the new book, I show you some of those things that I'd already been studying, and then I show you how The Law of One validates them. And I have hundreds of quotes from The Law of One. I do believe that first of all, I want to make this clear. The book makes it absolutely certain that the Law of One affirms the divinity of Jesus. It does. It says that Jesus was an embodiment of the galactic creator, which they call the Logos. So the term Logos is translated in the Bible as word. So when Jesus says, I am the Word, he's actually saying, I am the Logos. So that's one of the things I talk about in there, that in the Law of One, Logos has a very curious definition. The Law of One, again, is the books that I started to read in 1996, and I found hundreds of scientific things that I had seen way since 1981 when the words were spoken that didn't exist back in 1981. A very robust scientific model of consciousness and spirituality, with the idea, the fundamental concept that there is only one intelligence in the whole universe, and that's what they call the one infinite creator. And best of all, you are connected to the one infinite creator. You have a holographic link to that creator in yourself. Your awareness is the creator. And then what they talk about in the Law of One is that as you alleviate your distortions, which is the things that hold you back from peace, love, happiness, forgiveness, and patience, as you alleviate those distortions, you gain what they call personality transparency, and I am going somewhere with this, so hang with me. You get personality transparency. She's laughing, right? She's laughing. Are you getting lost? I'm trying not to get lost. Okay. So personality transparency means that your personality becomes an embodiment of the Logos. So look, in the beginning, this is in John, right? In the beginning there was the Logos, and the Logos was God, and the Logos was with God. And you can, normally people would say in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. But again, Word means Logos in Greek. How could the Logos be God and be with God? Well, the Law of One explained that, because the Logos is also the universal mind. So the one infinite creator, or what they would call in typical Christianity, the Father, which is the universal mind, is the Logos, and the galaxy is the Logos. But that's the Son, or the Father-Mother, you know. So the galactic consciousness apparently embodies as Jesus. Carla, who did the work, had to have the Bible open in front of her, and she was a devout Christian, just like Edgar Cayce was. Then I talk in the book about how there's all these interesting references to the Bible that they snuck into the Law of One in very clever ways, like the reference to everlasting rock. This is how they built the Great Pyramid. Well, as I show you in the book, the everlasting rock is a statement that they usually say to mean the Logos, to mean Jesus. And everlasting rock also appears to be kind of the idea that they're using sand and building the blocks out of that. They kind of use like a cement process and put the sand together. So that's what limestone is just conglomerated sand. So apparently the pyramid blocks were conglomerated by the sand on the desert floor. And I remember years ago reading in a Egyptology book that they were finding hairs inside the blocks of the pyramid. So how the hell do you get the hair inside a limestone? Well, because it was pulled together by some very advanced extraterrestrial group. The Great Pyramid was not a natural thing that was built by primitive people with buttery logs. Come on. It's way too complex, and I got a whole chapter dedicated to that in there. And also the rock refers to Jesus. So there's several, or the Rock of Ages is another name they give for him. Well, what you find out is that the reason why they called Jesus the Rock of Ages is that the pyramid predicted his arrival. The Great Pyramid belongs to us. It belongs to Christians. And I do identify as Christian, okay? And I'm sorry if that makes some people angry. But I always invoke the name of Christ when I'm trying to get any communication with these higher beings. And if anything violates what I feel to be the principles that I would agree with, then I discard that information. So you can read the book for yourself, and I can't do it all in this one video, and I don't want to spend a lot more time. But suffice it to say that after reading the Law of One in January 1996, and then also having read Dr. Brown's book right before that, I studied the remote viewing protocols that he claimed at the back of the book. If you apply these, you'll get a 99% accuracy. And then the last piece was a particular guy that I met in Richard Hoagland's discussion forum named Joe Mason. And Joe Mason told me that he was getting this thing in the morning called the Dream Voice. He said that when... You got to switch it to the red one. Sorry. Red 6. Here we go. All right, yeah. I got to make sure that my light is red and not green. Anyway, Joe Mason, and no, he was not a Freemason or anything like that. That just happened to be his last name. Told me that he was getting this technique in the morning called the dream voice, and he was showing me that he had predicted like the Northridge earthquake with it, and he had a lot of other enigmatic sayings that it brought through. He taught me how to do it. We talked on the phone. It sounded a lot like the remote viewing protocols I'd already heard, except that he had tailored them to get information that was verbal. So he said, Joe said, when you first wake up in the morning, if you can remember your dreams, which I always would, as you can still remember new details from the dream, listen to the background clutter that's going on in your mind. If it sounds like there's somebody over here, or it sounds like there's somebody over here, and you hear a droned voice or something talking in the background, you can't quite make it out, get as much of it as you can. Do not analyze it. Do not try to understand it. Now, this is what happened to me. This is what I started doing. I woke up the next morning, and I could hear Joe's voice still talking because I was falling asleep the night before trying to write down the things he was saying. So as I hear his voice talking, I started to write down what it was saying. I was very, very careful to go deep into trance and try to get the most nonsensical sounding stuff, and thus began an incredible journey that the book documents in the second half or thereabouts. It's not most of the book, but near the end, I guess the last third or so, I start to get into this part of the story, where I began to get these telepathic messages that were coming through using the processes that the protocols of remote viewing. It's all explained in this book. And right away, from the very first time, they began predicting the future with astonishing accuracy. If you've heard this all before, there are many, many prophecies that came through that are documented in the book that are absolutely irrefutable. I know that some people like to make videos. I know that they like to hate me. They think it's really funny. They laugh and laugh and laugh. And they cannot stand the idea that I support Jesus Christ. They cannot stand the idea that I might be talking to something that has something to do with the one infinite creator or the Logos. Because remember, the Logos is the galactic mind. We're all part of it. You can't get away from it. You can't get away from it. And what happens with Jesus is just personality transparency. So where the law of one is different is they say we're all going back to that. We're all going back to the Logos. So I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can go unto the Father but by me. Wouldn't that be logical if the galactic mind was going to say that? Because, yeah, you have to go through the galaxy's course. The galaxy's course is called the hero's journey. It's a series of 22 archetypes. And we talked about this last time. Page 85 is not the end of the world. It's just page 85 where the hero has to be appearing to be dead for 5 pages. Page 90, you get Act 3 in a Hollywood screenplay. And that's when all the allies that you met at the beginning of Act 2 come back to save the hero and complete the quest. And that's totally what's happening right now. I see all of these archetypes playing out in the world stage. So all of this is my kind of hand-wringing, semi-apologetic way of saying, look, I've had this thing going on for a long time. I've had so many people hate me and betray me and scream at me and end friendships over this, and the idea that I might be in contact with something like this. It's made for a very, very difficult life. I did this process extensively between 1996 and 2000, and then as I had clients, I actually did this for professional readings for people. I did a total of 500 clients from 1998 to 2005. I don't do those anymore, so please don't ask me to do this, because if I singled one person out, then everybody would want it. And to be fully honest with you, by the time 2005 rolled around, I was starting to get more popular on the internet, and there was so much negativity and hatred coming at me that I became concerned that I wouldn't get the highest Christ-light, pure frequency vibrations anymore. I was worried that I might not get that accuracy anymore. And I'm concerned enough about that I stopped trying to do this. I stopped trying to pull readings in as of about 2005. Now, there are certain exceptions to this. I do know how to do it, and the protocol requires that I'm in a very uplifting, peaceful state. I have to be in an extremely, extremely high vibration. Normally that doesn't happen, and honestly, I've been grumpy with the higher forces because they've guided me through some really, really rough initiations. So there was a part of me that said, I don't want to do these readings anymore. I don't want you guys, making me look foolish, because some people don't like the idea that telepathy is real, and that we all have a radio that we can use in our head to communicate with, for lack of a better term, God, or with Christ, or whatever you want to call it, your higher self, the Logos. It's all interconnected. It's all part of this greater thing that is divinity. So when I was in Canada, on my last trip to Canada, we had just moved to Burbank, California. We're now gone from there, so don't bother trying to find us there because we're no longer there. California in general, just forget it. So, but at the time, that's where we were. So I had just moved, and then you remember this, Beth. I actually like scampered off to go to a vacation while you were left to unpack in the house. And I do really apologize for that, but I tried to do the best I could. Anyway, once I got there, I was in a very, very wonderful place. And that's where a lot of things started to come together for me. And I was able to get some dreams, and I was able to get some readings. So there's one reading at the end that I didn't have time to put in here, but I pulled through a source that came in at the highest level. It's the higher self. It's the Christ consciousness, whatever you want to call it. It came through in, I guess you're going to get a total of 3 of them. Now, again, for some people, this is totally nonsense, and they're just going to laugh, and that's okay. If you want to turn it off now, you can. But what's interesting is, let's go back to the slide now. When these briefings started to come in, even before Mike had his very disappointing, scary show on January 16th, which again, we have full support for him, and that was just his opinion that day, but a lot of people in the comments were very upset. I remembered getting a reading suggesting, it hinted that the president might actually lose this election. And once I remembered that, and so this was on Thursday, January the 14th, when this occurred to me, I did have a reading that said that. Oh my God, when was it? And I had to go back to my notes and dig through it and find it, and I actually did. So the reading came in once I got to Canada in this beautiful, beautiful place. But it all started actually with some dreams beginning in September. So here's the first one. This is September the 4th, where in this dream, among other things, I didn't include the earlier part because it's personal. It was just telling me how great it was that I'd moved to Burbank and gotten my life together. It said, I met a very interesting insider in the dream who was conveying intel to me. He said that there is a type of N blackmail being played against the U.S. right now. He said this was being done by an enemy of the U.S., though he didn't specify who. And I said here, I want to feel like it's C, while realizing it could also be some aspect of the Cabal or a Cabal element in C. Now, this has become something that Mike was talking about extensively. This exact thing that I'm describing in the second bullet point is exactly what everybody's talking about, that this is being done. They might be dirty. They might be, the ones that are not dirty. But either way, it's really, really frightening, and it could lead to some kind of electromagnetic pulse or God knows what. So I had a dream about this in September 2019, remember. So specifically, this insider told me there were 2 facilities in California near the coast. This is in the dream. Either one of them could be triggered to create an EMP that could wipe out all electrical grids in the U.S. at the same time. And he said that their code names were Impedance Ring 1 and Impedance Ring 2. This was an issue that had not yet resolved at the time he was giving me the briefing. Now, I had to actually look up what this word meant because I didn't know. I mean, I kind of knew it as something with electricity, but I wasn't sure. So you look it up, and it means the effective resistance of an electric circuit or component to alternating current arising from the combined effects of ohmic resistance and reactance. So basically, impedance is electrical current trying to make its way through something and not getting there. It's resistance. It's resistance to the current. So then they're saying that these EMPs come through impedance rings. Now, I don't even know if this is true, and I've never talked to anybody about this. This is the first time I brought this out. But it would make sense to me somehow that if you run electricity through a resistor, through something that resists the current, that somehow with exotic technology, this could lead to an electromagnetic pulse. To me, that makes sense. Off the coast of California, I don't know, but this is the dream that I got. Now, whether this is actually true or whether it's a metaphor of the kind of overall idea we've been talking about, I don't know, but it really had a big effect on me when it came in. Back to the slide now. I'm still in the dream now. This is from the original write-up of the dream that morning. I didn't get the sense that this was really going to happen. That's very important. It's not going to actually happen, but more that there was just a concern about how it was affecting things. This was clearly being done against the Alliance by an enemy, and he also said this was part of the reason why everything was so quiet and that none of this intel declassified had been released yet, that there hadn't been any arrests yet. And this is exactly what everybody's saying right now. So it still is astonishing. I'm getting the hair standing up on my arms thinking about it right now. How did I get this back in 2019 now that everybody's talking about this? Then I have another dream, and this is on September 19th, and at this point I've now made it into Canada. And some really interesting things started to happen. There was something in this dream about pygmies. Of course, these are short people, and that might be a racist term or something. I don't even know. Everything's racist now. You can't say anything. Little people, whatever you want to call them, they used to be called pygmies. That's what I wrote down. Now, again, in the dreams, a lot of times the average person, average humanity, will be represented by some sort of let's say, differently abled person. So a pygmy is differently abled. They're short. They don't have the same... the world is not built for people who are that short, so they have problems. They have difficulties. So this kind of... a lot of times in dreams, something like this refers to the average person who doesn't really have the ability to fully interact with the spirit world at all. We're really kind of backwards. So that's what this really seems to mean in context. I was working with these people in some capacity, but they were not being treated well. This is now about everyone on Earth. So everyone on Earth is not being treated well. They had dirty clothes. They looked very impoverished, thin, and lean. Now, notice this is before 2020, and all those things started to happen. I haven't seen Wizard of Oz since I was a little kid, but I think it's safe to say they were a little bit similar to the little people who were in the movie. Okay. Now that I think of it, they were actually even more similar to the little person in the movie Legend, who seemed to be a slave of this devil creature called darkness. Now, this is the whole point of the dream, that we are the slaves of this devil creature called darkness, okay? And in the dream, this person ended up breaking away from darkness and working to defeat it. So in case you haven't seen this, this is the devil creature that was called darkness in the movie Legend. This is a wider angle shot of him, and in my dream, he just represents the Cabal. He represents evil itself. Things got pretty heavy at the end. I was in my brother's bedroom, the one I was in when we grew up. For a couple of years, my brother and I slept in bunk beds in his room. Then I got my own room again. We just decided we liked having private space. It was a lot larger than the bedroom actually had been. I was in some kind of class where we were training in martial arts, and we had maybe 10 people in the room. The room was a lot bigger, but it looked the same. So this is all about, we're all learning. The martial arts represents how we're all training, trying to make it in the world, trying to learn how to defeat evil and fight back and defend our boundaries. So we're trying to train in the martial arts. This represents everyone and how we're all trying to learn how to fight back. I was in the top bunk, so it's like a martial arts dojo, but it's also my brother's bed. And we were learning some type of warrior stuff as a group. Then in the middle of trying to learn this warrior stuff, this terrifying scorpion appears in the bed. It was large. It was about 4 to 4.5 inches long. The body alone was 1.5 inches wide, and it was very thick. So seeing this in the bed and knowing how fast they could move, both myself and the little person in the bed with me, we were both extremely terrified as this happened. Terrified. And it seemed like it had some kind of yellow rubber ring on it. And so this is where I said in the comments that this could be a nod back to that impedance ring dream that I had 15 days earlier about the idea of blackmail taking place. So now again, the scorpion represents darkness, the evil, the Cabal, and the idea of this blackmail that they're going to do using these weapons of mass you-know-what. So it definitely seems to tie back to the impedance ring dream. So that's what this scorpion represents. It's what they're trying to do to everyone on Earth. This is a symbol of what the Cabal is trying to do to everyone on Earth. I hope this is clear. So then the scorpion tried to sting my friend while we were in the bed. I don't remember who this person was, but I felt close to him. It was just, we were just hanging out in the bed, looking down, watching the dojo, watching people train. And again, he was this character from Legend. As we saw the scorpion, we both were so terrified that we leaped out of the bed and we jumped into the air and we were falling through space, free falling, to try to get away from this scorpion. And so I jumped off the bed. I hurled myself off the bed in the dream and basically launched myself off of the bed. But the scorpion somehow stayed with me. It jumped as well, and it followed me down, trying to sting me on the way down. And this, again, is a symbol of everybody being chased by this thing, being chased by this evil, being chased by darkness on a global level. And we all have to take this leap of faith. We all have to jump into the unknown. But then this thing is following us. So the whole way down, we're actually being followed by this thing. And it appeared in the dream that the thing was actually going to sting me before I could hit the ground, but I felt that if it got close, I would bat it away. And I woke up as I was still falling in the air. Now, the first thing that occurred to me, which I actually say in the notes, is that this was a reference to a dream that I had about the president. And I've told you guys this dream before, and I still stand behind the reliability of this dream. In this dream, I was driving on a construction site. Somebody was building a large building, and I'm a passenger in the car with the president. It's just me and him. He said some very nice complimentary things to me in this case, and he told me that he was uniquely qualified to go after this DS because, in his words in the dream, he had experience with dark business. He had seen it. He became aware of what was going on. He understood what was going on. He didn't like it, and he wanted to fight against it. In the dream, he was telling me that everything was going to be okay, that the arrests were going to take place, and everything would be fine. And as a way of dramatizing this for me, the car that we're in, he drives it off of this cliff. He says, "Don't worry, everything's going to be fine." Then he drives off the cliff, and we're in this car, and I'm here with the president, and he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and my eyes are going like this. Not like that, but like this. And I'm screaming. Ah! And we're free falling through space, just like the scorpion is falling in the dream, you see. This is the tieback. Dreams do tiebacks. And then we land on a big pile of garbage, and we're totally fine. And he just smiles at me. He's totally relaxed. He says, "See, I told you everything was going to be fine." That was not cool, man. I didn't like that. Well, we had to go through it. Okay. So I've had this dream, and I think it's one of the most prophetic dreams I've had recently, that it's going to be okay. We're going to take this leap of faith, and we're going to be fine. We're going to have a soft landing. So this dream that I just am telling you about, it references the impedance rings, it references the EMP, and it references darkness, and it references that something bad is going to happen. Remember, this is just a few months before 2020. It's in late September now. Just a couple months before this thing gets rolling. Something really bad is going to happen, and the evil is going to follow us all the way down. It's related to this idea of the EMP, impedance ring. Okay. So that's bad enough. And then I have this dream where I fall out of this bed, right? But then back to the slide, I actually did fall on the ice that same day. So this is the cabin. This is a picture that I took in the cabin on the day it was happening. And I know you hate me now, okay? But if I have any extra money, this is the kind of place I want to go. I want that snow. I want that blue lake. I want those mountains. And I want those trees. I have a very tiny cabin. That's about the width of the whole room right there. It's practically nothing. There's just a bed up where I took the picture. It's very small. But it's so beautiful. I mean, who cares, right? You go hiking. It's wonderful. When I stepped out that day, this is what I saw. Now, does that look like ice to you? Absolutely not. It just looked like it might have been a little bit wet. But it turned out this was all actually thin, and slightly wet ice. So I walked out on this ice, and I slipped and fell. I actually slipped and fell, and I landed flat on my back. It was completely terrifying. I was very upset, and of course, it had just happened in the dream that morning. So this really told me, like, you better pay attention to this dream. This is really, really, really important. The strangest thing about this is that I was bizarrely unharmed. So if you look at, you can see there's a series of planks here, and I fell on the second stair down from the top. But I fell in a very strange way. I landed literally flat on my back. My head landed on the stair. My neck landed on the edge of the stair, and I was completely unharmed. I landed, and even though I fell from vertical to horizontal, and I fell straight down, My body landed in such a perfect way that I was unharmed, and I didn't even have really hardly any damage at all. This was very, very shocking because of what happened with the dream. And again, it showed me you better pay attention to this dream. It's really important. So I identified the readings that came right after this dream, because this dream is literally what led directly to a reading taking place. I identified those readings on Thursday the 14th, and I posted key excerpts from them to Twitter. Now, I can't prove that this was written in 2019 unless you actually look at the hard drive, because I do have time-stamped copies of these readings from when I did it. Now, I hardly use it at all, so that's why I still have it. Otherwise, I'm sure I would have been taken down, because I'm not saying anything right now, just every now and then. So January 14th, I quoted from these readings. Here it is. Now remember, this is in October of 2019, so this is 2 months before 2020 and all these crazy things started to happen that made life very depressing. This is what it said. Something is coming. A sequence of events that will be utterly mind-blowing to you, fueling conspiracy theories at large, awakening great anger in the populace, but also redefining the nature of what it means to be human and where we are going as a civilization. And then I say, excerpt from 25 pages of readings I pulled through my last Canada vacation. All will be shared this weekend. And then I quoted this too. So fear not. The changes are coming, and they will come. It will be beautiful, quite exceptional in fact, and worthy of a detailed study on your website when the time comes. So this is January 14th. This is where I was. Nobody knew about the fact that there was a dream where I fell first and that I actually had fallen in real life. But where it gets really weird and crazy in terms of synchronicity is that my mother fell the following morning and broke her hip. This is true. And just to prove it to you, I'm going to show you this text that I got from her where this is what happened. This is what she told me. And I took a picture of it as it came in. So I'm going to zoom in on this now. She said, just so you know, I slipped on the ice on my driveway this morning. I may have either dislocated my hip or broken it. I'm in the emergency room right now. They will do x-rays and find out what's going on. That was at 10 o'clock. Then at 11:21, she said, my hip is broken, so I need an operation. I'm not sure when it will happen. Could be today or not. Then she said later, the surgery is tomorrow morning at 9. With any luck, I will be home by Monday or Tuesday. Now, my mother is fine. Thank God. She, just like what happened with me falling on the ice, she has a minor fracture. They said they've never seen somebody fall on their hip like that and be in such good shape. My mother has a great diet. She gets a lot of exercise. If people have osteoporosis, this typically makes them wheelchair bound. So just like what happened with me, where I literally landed on my neck, but my neck absorbed enough of the weight just with the whole body, like the whole body just absorbed the weight at the same time, and I didn't get hurt, amazingly. My mother did have to get a little nail in her bone. It's going to be there forever, but she's already walking on it, and they say she's going to be home and she's fine. Minimal invasive surgery. So we talked about this, and she has accepted that somehow this very unfortunate injury, she's never broken a bone her whole life. And Beth, if you just as my wife, if you want to validate real quickly that we both talked to my mother and that she did fall on the ice. I'm not making this up. This is not a joke, folks. Right. So what I'm saying, folks, is that this is the kind of weird synchronicity where I fell and then my mother fell only after I made the tweet. It's extremely bizarre. And again, these kinds of things, when physical events take place, it tells me you better pay attention. This is really, really, really important. So that's what told me that the reading also came through at the right level and that we're supposed to hear it. I believe it underlined the reading, because the dream that I had right before this reading comes in that you're about to hear describes me falling, and then as I'm doing this, my mother fell. And Elizabeth, we can also talk about, and cut to yourself on the camera angle this time, that on the day that my mother fell, what was I getting done here at the house? Don't forget to cut to yourself.
I know. That's a trick question. What were you getting done?
Rolfing. Tell them about the rolfing.
I guess we were getting rolfing done.
Okay. So if you're not going to cut to you're shy. I get it. It's okay.
I'm cutting to myself.
Oh, okay. Well, the red is still on me, but I guess that's because that one doesn't have an.
Oh, maybe it is.
Yeah.
Oh, because
Yeah, there you go.
Because
Okay, now you can talk to
that
them.
button.
Now they'll see you.
So
Do you
yes.
remember that I was getting Rolfing done and she was specifically boring in on my right hip, which is the same hip my mother injured?
Yeah.
Remember I
She's
told
working
you
on
that it
both
was
her
like,
hips.
because you know this, I've been having enormous progress in freeing up my right hip so I can use it.
Yes.
Okay, so that means that in addition to the impedance ring dream, the ring on the scorpion following me down, the scorpion symbolizing darkness, the planetary blackmail that's going on, that we're all being attacked by this thing, all of us are the person falling, right? That's what the dream means. Then I have to fall on the ice to underline that. Then my mother has to fall and break her hip so that we really know that we're paying attention after I tweeted about this. And again, that's not evil. This is just a way of using dramatic events to let us know this is very important and we need to pay attention. Just like that guy that did the video, and as I told you, I go there and I showed you this, 3,333 views and 333 subscribers. Again, suggesting this is all going to be fine. So with all that is build up, and now we're at 8:47, I don't have a whole lot of time left. This might go a little bit over 3 hours, and for that I do apologize. But I want to read you this reading because it's so beautiful and it's so inspiring, and it has prophetic things in it that have not happened yet, as well as some other things that are highly compelling. So without further ado, what I'm about to read you appears to be positive, benevolent sources that are coming from the Christ light, my own higher self that's unified with that, coming through me, using these intermediaries, using angelic benevolent forces, and giving us these words. Now, I've got thousands of pages of this. I explain the whole thing. It's rare that I'm able to do one, but the beings are clear. I call it the beings, just for whatever, because there's more than one of them, and they are these tall whites or whatever. That's what they appear to be, what I've seen when they're doing this. But again, before you go laughing and before you go thinking that I'm crazy, which you probably will anyway, just remember that these sources have predicted the future countless occasions. I had 500 clients, a 99% success rate. People really get into this, okay? And I had one lady who got a reading from me, and it not only quoted the lyrics from some of the songs she'd written, but it explained to her why she'd written them. And she was in tears. She was blown away. There's a lot of really great stuff in the book about this and how it happened. So I think, honestly, that I'm doing it about as well as anybody can right now. I don't know if there's anybody else that's really doing it like this, following the protocols of remote viewing, doing it in the way that's the most likely to succeed and get authentic results. There might be somebody else doing it. Please don't send me all this stuff. You know what? There's so many bad channelers, and there's so many people that aren't doing it well. It's not that interesting. You know, we've had to say this before, but like, the Law of One, the Casey readings, the Seth books, and what I've brought together, and a few other things I mentioned in the book, that's really enough. We don't need tons and tons of channeling. And there's so much garbage out there that it flushes out the signal. So again, I hardly have done this since 2005, but when I was in Canada in this beautiful cabin, this is what came through from a very deep source. I'm going to read it to you now. And it's all about, it's for everybody. It's not just for me. Now this is really strange, because this was on September 19th, 2019, and it says the states have all aligned in your favor. This didn't make any sense at the time, so I actually put SP next to the word states because I didn't know if that spelling was right. But now in context, we just had this E thing go down, and now it's like the states appear to have been lost, and it appears that, you know, we're going to have this new situation show up for us that's very troubling to people. But the very first thing this time-looped reading said, with my mother's injury and my fall and the weird dreams and then all this stuff, the first thing it said is the states have aligned in your favor. And it's talking to you. And it's talking about this moment right now. I totally believe that this reading was meant to be unpacked right now. And I hadn't even remembered that I'd done this. Honestly, I just wrote all this down, and I went on with my vacation, and I said, oh, I should go back and look at that, and then I forgot about it. So now it's come up. The states have all aligned in your favor. That sure sounds like what's going on right now. And again, I can prove that this was done in September 2019 by time-encoded things on my hard drive. Once we become aware of the new opportunities, we can no longer regard these situations as becoming more hostile in the extreme. And just leave it on this slide for a minute. I'm going to narrate over it. The current situation that we're in right now, in the time-looped moment that we're in, that my mother's injury shows us, and everything else going on, me getting that hip treatment, everybody's, the fear right now is that this is a very extremely hostile situation, but they're saying, wait a minute, the states have aligned in your favor, and there are new opportunities. So it's not more hostile in the extreme. That's a prophecy. We don't know if this is true yet, but that's what it's saying. You have always been able to perceive light from darkness. Remember, they made a reference to darkness in the dream that was right before this. And it means that those people who take the helm and steer it in an unfortunate direction will not be around much longer to abuse you. This is why we are here. The dream that they gave me, again, illustrates this in symbolic terms with a very dramatic message. But again, these people who take the helm and steer it in an unfortunate direction will not be around much longer to abuse you, and this is why we are here. These angelic, positive, benevolent ETs that we should all be happy about, we should all be happy they exist, they're making sure that nothing bad is going to happen to us. So this is the answer to the fear porn. We're going to be fine, everybody. We open up the doors of infinity and allow you to reflect upon the initiative that has been placed before us. For so long you have toiled and labored under the sun, not seeing the fruits of the vineyards for what they truly are. This is about to change. Now they give me a message here that I'm about to read to you. I really debated as to whether to include this or not, but I feel that I should. I feel it would kind of be irresponsible if I didn't include this. And again, you can troll on me, hate on me all you want. This is what they actually said. You, David, will become a celebrity in a way that does seem impossible right now, but is nonetheless ever achievable. So I can vibe into that because, think about it, if the stuff that I'm telling you is true, doesn't this become more important after it's proven correct? Wouldn't that lead to more public exposure? Yeah. So that's what I think it's talking about. Back to the slide. We have always and ever hoped that you would come around to us and appreciate this process once more, meaning the readings. Which I don't think I've done another one since this came through. So they're talking to me now and hoping that I'll do more of these. So leave us a comment and tell me if you'd like me to do more readings because I need some encouragement. So many people get so angry if I ever even talk about this stuff. Oh, it's evil, it's wrong, it's bad, it's da-da-da, he's crazy, he's an egomaniac, he's just doing it for money. I haven't done it. Come on. I've put my life on the line over and over again. I've talked about very contentious material. There's no hidden agenda here, except that I hope that we will all be okay and that we're going to become more spiritual, loving, forgiving, compassionate beings. That's it. Okay? Back to the slide. They say, this is to everybody, do not be afraid of what is coming. It will be very useful for us to have better access to you in this regard. They're again asking me to do more readings. I guess I really need to. So I'm going to have to start meditating and make sure I can get good reception. The stakes are rising, and there are indeed many different choices of how things could transpire within this environment. They're talking about right now. This is a time loop, and I show many time loops in the book that go right into the present of when I was writing the book. Resting on your laurels is not wise at this time. This is talking to everyone. Allow yourself to be of service in this regard, and you will be richly rewarded for what you have done. This again is asking me to do more readings. There are no previous opportunities that can compare to the beauty and the glory of what is unfolding before you now. By working together, meaning my and others like me working with these forces, these positive beings, we are allowing changes to happen in the world that are extremely benevolent and positive. We would like to see you stepping up to the challenge and allow yourself to be an instrument for these words at this most pivotal time in human history. Once again, they're asking me to do more readings. I guess I really do need to. We have agreed that the debts have been paid to your debtors, and the wherewithal to induce this positive change is indeed upon you now. I believe this means that we, as a planet, have paid off our karmic debt. We've been through enough negativity now that we can get these positive things to happen. We've paid out the karma. So this is for everyone. Now this is the line that made me wonder if it was saying that the president might not win the election in the second round. Because I remember when I saw this saying, uh-oh, that doesn't look good, because I know they like to tiptoe around and they're not always honest. So let's go back to the slide. Richmond, Virginia may be a place that is affected by the coming changes, but we fear not for the future as it is constantly changing. So Richmond, Virginia may be a place that is affected by the coming changes. Now, having done this for so many years, having had this happen so many times, that's the kind of indirect thing that they would say that makes me wonder if it's a prophecy about the loss of the election. But I didn't know anything else. And I did think about the states aligning in your favor. States sounds like an election. Okay, it could be something like that. Anyway, there's more to Richmond than we see. But let's get back to the slide here. So then it said, the flies are all moving in the opposite direction, and where they go is not predetermined. This is important because you will see real atrocities taking place as the prophecy unfolds. I've had a lot of time to think about the flies are moving in the opposite direction. And to me, what that suggests is like the idea of the earthquake, where the animals run when there's going to be an earthquake, right? And they're running and running and running. And even the insects, even the flies, are so afraid of whatever this is. It could be fire, could be smoke, could be bombs going off, who the heck knows what, but they're all flying in the opposite direction. That's the kind of hypnotic wording that the beings use all the time that normally I would never think of something like this. And that weird wording is typical when you're doing it right and you're getting it from a deep level. So they said this is important because you'll see real atrocities taking place as the prophecy unfolds. And then they talk about Richmond, Virginia. Well, here we are in the time loop with 30,000 troops surrounding D.C., and Richmond is right near there. It's not immediately nearby, but it's close. The top of Virginia is right in the middle of the D.C. area. You can live in Virginia, you could live in Maryland, you can live in D.C., and they're all very close driving distance to each other. So that's really, really cool. So let's look a little bit more onto what's all about Richmond, Virginia, and how does it relate to the president? Well, I looked it up because I wanted to find out what are the connections the dream might be speaking about. Well, first of all, one of the last rallies before the election was in Richmond, Virginia, and it was absolutely massive, by the way. And then as I looked it up, sure enough, there's, 8,111 views. So there's the synchronicity again, or 6,000. I can't really see that, it's so small, but I can see the 111. That was cool. 911, there you go. So that's even better because it's got symbolic levels of 911. There you go. We love synchronicity. Okay, so then this is what happened when I typed it in on Google. And sure enough, just by typing it in and seeing what pops up, right in the middle, we have, the news about the impeachment from January the 14th, V rollout update. All this came up when that's what I typed in. And Central Virginia members of Congress from Richmond obviously defended the votes to impeach. That's ridiculous because they're obviously not our friends. I don't feel friendly towards them. Let's just put it that way. Some people might. So sure enough, the Stop the S rally, the big one that he had that did so well, was also in Richmond. And look at the date. It's right around the time, right after the E had happened, November 6th, just 3 days later. This is when the rally took place, and it was massive. So then again, here it says it took place on the 8th, actually. It was announced on the 6th, and it's right there in Richmond. And the full rally. So this was pretty interesting because, again, it was talking about Richmond in a way where it said that there might be some problems there. And this is, again, seems to be talking about D.C. and the time loop that we're in now. Now, this is talking to everybody, okay, not just me. It is important not to lose your focus as these transmissions continue. Our connection with you will be strengthened and deepened, and this is indeed very useful. I do believe they're talking to you and not just me. You, because of this ascension we're all going through, you will be able to soar into heights that were never before attainable. And in light of what is happening to you now, this should be a cause for great excitement. Well, look at the third bullet point. You will be able to soar into heights that were never before attainable. This is a prophecy, I think, of the release of secret space program technology, anti-gravity. Heights that were never attainable means leaving the Earth, going to the moon, going to Mars. And this should be a cause for great excitement, right? Very, very exciting. The most that we offer is our very lives in service and in support of this mission. Therefore, please do understand that the stakes are indeed very high and we do take this seriously. All that we ask is that you become more and more comfortable with the process and allow yourself to become an instrument of peace. And again, they're talking to everybody. Become more comfortable with the process of our great awakening that's going on, and please become an instrument of peace. And they're also saying that they could lose their lives because, again, even though these beings apparently are, let's go back to a camera here. Even though these beings are apparently divine, higher level, higher dimensional, higher density, whatever you want to call it, they're flesh and blood. Ships have crashed, bodies have been found. Those bodies could be fourth density, but they still leave behind a physical corpse. So these beings are not indestructible. They could easily die, and there is a war going on, and they could very easily give up their lives as they fight for us to not have any disasters on the planet, just like Dr. Edgar Mitchell and all these others have talked about, UFOs appearing over installations, powering them down. They will not allow the planet to be wiped out. Some of them might die in the process and we'll probably never hear about it. So it's interesting that they mentioned this in this reading. And again, if anybody's going to get an accurate reading right now, it's probably me, just because I've got the pedigree, the background, the remote viewing protocols. I've done this for many years. I've documented it in my books. So I think you can trust this. I do believe with all the time loops, and I get hip work done. My mother breaks her hip. I had this fall. The dream has the fall. It's very strange. All right, back to the slide here. So they could lose their lives, is what they're saying. And then look at this. This is right in the transcript. If I can ever, have somebody forensically identify that this was in September 2019, which is very easy to do. I said, I have pain in my right hip that was starting to flare up. Isn't that something? It's all part of the signal here. It's all part of the message. And then I yawned and I said, let me see if I can move my leg. And that was the beginning of the hip trouble I was having that now has really, really escalated. And my wife was having hip trouble at the same time. In fact, you couldn't even hardly walk after I went to Canada. You remember that?
Yes.
Of course you do. You were not happy that I left, but we've gotten over it. Okay, we appreciate your dedication to this cause and remind you that you are loved more than you could ever possibly imagine. Peace be with you in the light of everlasting love. This is a good start, and we take our leave of you now. Adonai and Amen. So right after I get the hip pain, they cut it off because that was what was starting to interfere with the signal. You can't do this process if you got pain. So then another reading came in 2 days later. I'm still in this gorgeous, gorgeous place and very high vibrations there. As I've talked about in the last book, Ascension Mysteries, some of the stuff was happening there. Look at this. Israeli intelligence agents will reveal very much in the coming months. Well, that's talking about coming from now. We have prepared you to receive transmissions like this because it is imperative that we have receptions for the grand crowds that are coming to the party. What in the world are the grand crowds and the party? This is a coded message, and I believe it's talking about when we finally get to meet the other people who have been here on Earth all along, building pyramids, giving us ancient religions, teaching us about spirituality, and trying to get us not to kill each other. So the grand crowds coming to the party we're trying to prepare you for seems to be talking about the disclosure, the full disclosure where we get to meet ETs. And then this prophecy also says Israeli intelligence agents will give you much in the coming months. This has already started coming true because you remember this slide? Israeli space official says ETs are already here, December 7th, 2020. We saw it on TMZ. ETs and Galactic Federation are real, but hiding till we're ready. We saw it here in Middle East Eye. Aliens exist, and T knows it, says the former head of the Israeli space program. And then here on Daily Wire, which is from India, former head of Israel's space division, aliens are real, and T was on the verge of confirming. So here's the link to that. And you remember I read this through before, so we'll just do it again really quick. The former head of Israel's space program claimed the U.S. and Israeli governments are in touch with ETs and a galactic federation is already in existence. His name is Haim Eshed. He ran the Israeli space program for nearly 30 years, and he said that's a lot. I mean, that's a very significant person. 30 years as the head of the Israeli space program, Haim Eshed. He said humanity isn't ready to make contact with the civilization, and he claims that the civilization had to intervene to prevent the president from blurting out their secrets. The 87-year-old made the comments to the Israeli newspaper Yediot Aharonot ahead of the publication of a new book entitled The Universe Beyond the Horizon, which deals with his claims about the existence of extraterrestrial intelligence. He says the aliens, they don't like that word because they're humans, so we'll just say the ETs. The ETs have asked not to announce that they are here because humanity is not ready yet. And I can totally buy that. We had to have the Cabal get defeated first. That's the order. You have to have the Cabal defeated, then you get to find out about the ETs. So Haim said they have been waiting for humanity to evolve and reach a stage where we will generally understand what space and spaceships are. I think we already do. There's some loss in translation here, I believe, as I said before. There is an agreement between the U.S. government and the ETs. They signed a contract with us to do experiments here, so that would probably be the negative ones. But there's also good guy ETs as well, so please don't get confused. He explained the ETs have a base on Mars. Whoa, that's what we've been talking about for so many years. I had an insider tell me this back in 2007. That was Henry Deacon. T was on the verge of revealing the ET's existence, but the ETs in the Galactic Federation are saying, wait, let people calm down first. So isn't it something that this same reading, this particular reading starts out by saying Israeli intelligence agents will have much to reveal in the coming months? Well, yeah, Haim Mashed is going to reveal a lot in this book, and we hope that he's going to come forward. We hope that he's going to talk, and we hope that he's going to reveal a heck of a lot more than the little teasers that are in this. But that's probably only just the beginning, because you remember back on some of Wood's tweets that we were talking about before that have been heavily attacked, and then the whole platform they were on got taken down because of it. What was one of the things that he kept saying? He kept saying, you're going to see some of this come out of Israel. Israel's one of the 10 countries, right? So who the heck knows what we're going to learn? But the reading is giving us a prophecy saying Israeli intelligence agents will reveal much in the coming months. And then let's go on from here with the rest of this particular reading. Let's be clear that we are not closing the door on future transmissions at all. In other words, they want this practice that I'm doing to become a routine objective. In so doing, we open the door to infinite possibilities and receive strength and guidance that cannot be easily undermined. I guess I really do need to start doing this. They got me into telling you all this stuff. I didn't think if I'd ever tell the public about this. Okay, back to everybody else. At the heart of all this, we have an objective of planetary peace. That is where we are steering the narrative. It may not seem attainable, but in fact, planetary peace is entirely and absolutely doable within your current political reality structure. Is that not amazing? That's a prophecy. It just takes some adjustments, quote unquote, to be fulfilled. Well, adjustments are a lot, and that's what we're going through right now is what they call adjustments. But this planetary peace is entirely and absolutely doable in the current political reality structure. That's pretty amazing. The press ought to mind its own business when it comes to war. By slinging these arrows, it undermines public goodwill, and it's making craven attempts to change how we the people think, such as by censorship. This is very current, isn't it? This is not advisable anymore, and the entire apparatus will be revealed for exactly what it is. That's another prophecy. It's starting to happen, but I think it's going to go much, much, much farther based on what they're saying. The entire apparatus will be revealed for exactly what it is, a warmongering press that's controlled and craven attempts to change how we the people think, undermining public goodwill, and slinging arrows. This disclosure, I put disclosure in there just because context, that's what they're talking about. This disclosure event seems to be coming slowly, but most people are already very aware of it, regardless of which side of this, in this case, political debate they may be on. We applaud your sincere efforts for taking the time to do this with us once again. It has happened, meaning they're speaking now, and that is indeed an extreme positive for us. Well, it allowed them to install these prophecies. I didn't know. I had no idea what was going on when this happened. I didn't remember any of these words. I had to listen to the recording and transcribe it, and after I transcribed it, that's the first time I heard it is when I went back and read it, because I can't listen to it while I'm transcribing either. If I try to listen to it as I'm transcribing it, I'm not in the right frame of mind. So what I do is I listen to the individual words and I write them down, but I try not to track it or analyze it because I don't want to train on the sound of my voice where I'm listening to it and understanding it. I want the sound of my voice to be something I'm not paying attention to. So I did the transcript, but it's only when I go back and read it that I actually get to see the results for the first time. So this is pretty contentious, of course, and I'm going to get probably a lot of people angry at me for this, but what the heck, here it is. We authored the Bible in a sense, as has been the case with many other texts as well. And by we, they're talking about these higher level benevolent beings. The principles of ageless wisdom do not change throughout time and space, meaning they kept trying to give it to us in different ways, and then we fight over it, which is not fair and not fun. So the principles of ageless wisdom, the stuff in the Bible, they said this is easily some of the most heartfelt comments we have ever seen. And they reside within a perspective where the happenstances of life are fundamentally intertwined. That's synchronicity. So these comments come in with synchronicity, and they've demonstrated that again with my mother falling and my hip getting worked on and me falling at the time this came in, all this stuff. There are no coincidences. There are no random accidents. There are no false hopes. In fact, hope is an intermediary leading to faith. Faith transcends belief and moves into a knowingness of the way things actually work. And therein lies wisdom. The specialty cases like this one, meaning me, David Wilcock, the specialty cases like this one give us an opportunity to go beyond what normally was possible in terms of the level of intelligence of these transmissions, the scope and depth of what is possible, and the authenticity of the verbiage. I guess they like it. Thank you, guys. For that, we are extremely grateful for the service that has been provided. Through following our guidance, much has been accomplished, and there is far more to come. We often glance at the sidelines and consider what could have been if this were not to take place. And it is indeed a very happy moment for us to note that those timelines are forever denied in light of this new information. So, through various people following their guidance, this is not just talking about me, this is including benevolent positive ETs, human ETs, meeting with people in the Alliance, I'm sure they have, and given them information. So through following our guidance, much has been accomplished, and there's far more to come. We often wonder what would have happened if we hadn't done this, and they said those timelines are forever denied. So I do believe ultimately, as we go further down, we're going to find out that benevolent ETs collaborated with the Alliance to make sure this would all work out. That's what I think they're saying here. The timelines of the planet being taken over, global fascism, are forever denied. We are very grateful for what all of you on Earth have accomplished in fighting back against tyranny. That's what I think this is talking about. And we look forward to taking the next steps with you as well. This is for everyone, and they want to meet us. And then they had this thing, I put it in quotation marks, like it's a side comment made by somebody else. This one, which apparently in context means me, gets away with it. And by that, I mean that through this channel, I guess, we can say things that others could not conceive of. We are able to spin the narrative away from the death and destruction that has become so prevalent in your news coverage. And we want to thank you, David, for taking the time once again to be with us in this matter. It is all over now, except for the fat lady singing. That is how close we are. Isn't that interesting? And we appreciate the opportunity to make some final adjustments to the narrative flow of the timeline. So this in the time loop says it's all over now except for the fat lady singing. And I wanted to send you this. This is a text from Danny and Brinkley, who does actually call me honey boy. This is... It doesn't mean that we're homosexuals, folks. It just is a southernism. It's a southernism that just means someone who you are very close to. But look at this. This is just yesterday. He said, I hear the fat lady. And I said, amen. So the top of this text, I'm not going to show you because the top of this text is a briefing that he gave me that has more information than I want to disclose publicly. But it's very similar to what I read you at the beginning. So then he sends me this and he says, I hear the fat lady. And then the reading in the time loop said, it's all over except for the fat lady singing. It's much closer than you think. So regarding the Honey Boy thing, there is actually a movie by Shia LaBeouf called Honey Boy. Here it is on the slide. And that's what he was called by his own Southern family in this case. So I said, Danny, and we can't use Honey Boy because it's already been taken. It's the name of a movie. Okay, no problem. So I call him Uncle Mama. He calls me Honey Boy. Now you know the truth, folks. That's full disclosure. The beings forced me to do this by bringing in that fat lady thing, and then Danny texts me and says, I hear the fat lady. I mean, you got to understand, I know some people will only want to believe that I made this all up, that I fabricated this. I did not fabricate my mother falling and breaking her hip. I did not fabricate falling on the ice. I sent that picture to my wife. Beth, you can tell everybody, you remember, right? Can you just confirm, cut to yourself and confirm that I did send that picture to you that day and told you what happened?
Which picture are you talking about?
About the ice, when I fell on the ice.
Oh, yes, that one. Definitely. Yeah, that was concerning.
Right. So none of this is fabricated, folks. I know it might seem very complex and weird, but that's how these beings like to work. All right. So here we go back to the slide. We would not be here without your sincere efforts, and we appreciate that. It is always a good idea for you to remain in contact with us, for with this contact comes the opportunity to regain that which you had lost, a full knowledge of the great plan, at least to whatever degree can be accomplished within your current reality. And this goes way beyond just disclosure. This is the ascension itself. Okay. Even better is the understanding of your role within it and how you have helped so immeasurably already. We want to compliment and congratulate you, David. That is something you have not heard enough of over the years, despite the many followers of your work who have opined about their feelings. I would say that's true. Maybe with the new book it won't be that way. Because now with the new book you really get the point. You are releasing deep-seated stigmas, core programs as you recently called them, that told you you were unkind, fearful, lacking in vitality, not suitable for the task at hand, and otherwise insignificant. Your intelligence was questioned and your ability to take care of yourself, and we do apologize sincerely for that. Now, the ... is that they do a lot more pumping up my ego, and I don't want to drag you through all that. But they said very nice things about me. Let's just leave it that way. I'm sorry, but that's what I'm just reading you what I got, and that's why I cut the stuff where they keep pumping up my ego. All right. We have always appreciated what you have done for us and for humanity, and that is not changing now. The timelines are open. The future is now less and less indistinct, and the reality is of your choosing. Isn't that interesting? We are inspired by what we are seeing happen now in the world, and we want to remind you that you are loved more than you could ever possibly imagine. That is all for now. Peace be with you in the light of everlasting love. Adonai and Amen. Then, literally, 12 days later, I finally got another one. And it says, and it's talking to me again, your reputation is built upon impeccability. And by that, we mean that if you ever get in a pinch, we have resources available to help you out. So again, they're telling me and everyone else, please don't worry, we will be, it's going to be fine. Then they said this line, which didn't even make any sense at the time, the Iceman cometh. What are they talking about? We know that what he takes is a lot, but the opportunities beckon him at this point. We know that what the Iceman is going to take is a lot. This is a riddle, folks. This is a puzzle. This is another encrypted prophecy, okay? We know that what he takes is a lot. The Iceman cometh, but the opportunities are beckoning him at this point. Well, who is the Iceman? Well, I thought about it and I said, wait a minute. ICE is Immigration Customs Enforcement. So sure enough, I typed in these three terms. This was just today, Iceman. And then look at that. 10 things to know about T's Iceman. The White House announced Tom Homan, the immigration hardliner who's been acting as the director of the U.S. ICE Immigrations and Customs. So then I click on that, and this is what I get. On Tuesday, November 14th, the White House announced Tom Homan, the immigration hardliner who's been acting as director of the U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement Agency during the past 10 months, has been named officially as the director, and his nomination has now been sent to the Senate, where he'll face a confirmation hearing. Here are the 10 things you should know about Tom Homan, the Iceman. So this all goes back to the idea of various nasty organizations that are working from below the border, coming up through. I showed you those pictures. That's why this is such a big deal. And the Iceman is a person who, of course, here is being referenced as somebody who's going to clean all this up. So let's just go back real quick to that again so we can get the context. Yeah, so it said, we know that what he takes is a lot. Yeah, so now that we've got it, I want to read it to you again. So your reputation is built upon impeccability. And by that, we mean if you ever get in a pinch, we have resources available to help you out. The Iceman cometh. This is now somebody we know is an appointee from the president dealing with immigration, we know that what he takes is a lot, but the opportunities beckon him at this point. So what is he going to be taking a lot of? Probably a lot of prisoners. That's what I think this is talking about, folks. He's taking a lot of prisoners. The Iceman cometh. This is another prophecy about big stuff happening. Do not fear the changes that are happening in you and in the world. We are truly very blessed to have this cycle ending working out the way that it is, so forthrightly shifting in the direction that is most warranted. They are very confident that we are on the optimum timeline. This is the best way that it could have been. President T's apparent character flaws allow others to reflect upon what they might want to see in future presidents, and that is causing beneficial changes throughout the mass mind despite its seemingly reactive stance. I think that's a very wise thing. They're not insulting him, but they're saying, as each of us comes up against these things that the media is talking about, in general, the media is now forcing the entire conversation to rise up, the ethical level. And in fact, I believe the president has done an amazing job in becoming so much more dialed in to not offend anyone, to try to do the right thing, to try to not give anything to this entity that's trying to always create slings and arrows and trip you up. So we're all growing. We're all learning together. And each one of us is going to rise to a higher standard and see that there's more that we could be doing with our lives. Okay, back to the slide. So fear not. The changes are coming, and they will come. It will be beautiful, quite exceptional, in fact, and worthy of a detailed study on your website when the time comes. So it will be beautiful, exceptional changes. You have nothing to fear. This is all going in the right direction. So allow yourself to appreciate the good things in life for once, and do not worry about the fussy details of every situation. Focus on the large-scale visions and let them take you into realms undeterred by the thought of failure or any otherwise lack of success. This is your time, David, and they're talking to everybody, not just me. This is your time, and we really mean it. The world is your oyster, as it were, and you have earned great accolades and repercussions for doing so. Similarly, now they're going to out my wife here. And they say very great things about her. Similarly, the one known as Beth has made great strides in her character and personality, and for that and many other things, we are very proud of her. You want to say anything back to the alleged source of this, now that they've complimented you publicly?
Well, I say thank you, of course.
Of course. You have both held up, this is Beth and me alike, you have both held up under fire from allies and competitors alike. And you found a way to stay together through all of it and avoid self-immolating. We are truly mystified, awed, and humbled by your efforts. I guess they had to throw us a bone, huh, so that we would want to keep doing this, right, sweetheart?
Yeah, we've been betrayed by, like, we counted once.
It's like 23 betrayals, right?
I think it was 27 at that
27?
point.
Okay, yeah.
And it's gained in number since then, so.
Well, we don't even want to publicize that, but
anyway,
yes, it's astonishing stuff has happened to us. Astonishing.
Yeah.
You have no idea, folks. I wish we could tell you, but don't want to. Don't need to publicize people either, because we don't want them, because there's this thing, people think they're going to hate you and then they're going to get publicity from it. I've studied this internet for 25 years. I can tell you, attack videos never create traction. You can't build a career on it. And if your platform is knocking other people down, it's not going to work, because the audience, I've studied people's comments for so long. I read what you tell us, and you guys don't want to hear us fight with each other. You don't want to have mommy and daddy fighting. You just want everybody to get along, and you want us to respect you enough to make up your own mind about who you choose to follow. So I'm not going to say negative things about other people in this field, and I never will. If I don't think you should be following them, I simply won't talk about them. What I do want to do is honor you to say, here's what I think you want to study. Here's what I think might interest you. Here's the book that I wrote so that you can read. You know, that's it. I'm not going to ever attack anybody unless, you know, up until now it hasn't been necessary. If certain people were to do certain things, at a certain point I may have to respond. I've never responded up until now to anything. I reserve the right to respond, though. I totally reserve the right to make statements if somebody tries to throw me under the bus or say something that's not true, because Beth and I have talked about this so much, there's no crime to find. I never cheated on anybody. I never stole anything. Whatever. It's so stupid. Anyway, let's go back to the reading. Enough about me. We can only remind you that it is important not to work constantly, as David has done recently, and now Beth is coming out of the same thing. We both are, actually. We've been doing launches all year. Very intense work. In order to better secure the appropriate consciousness to enact the changes that we are seeing come to pass now. And this is for everyone, not just us. There are so many opportunities ahead that it is truly mind-blowing to consider them. So if you're working constantly, if you're always busy, this is something they mentioned in the Law of One, that if you are in a state they call busyness all the time, you will not be receptive to these higher forces. So it's imperative for your meditations to really start to tune into the voice of Christ, the voice of your higher self, the voice of the galactic creator, whatever you want to call it. To tune into that voice, you need to slow down, you need to ground, and you need to have some time. So somebody like Mike, who I was talking about earlier from Natural News, he's doing it every day. So please, Mike, at some point, like, take some time for yourself, man, because, you know, we need to all do that. But right now, I totally get it. He needs to make a broadcast every day because there's so much stuff going on, and we do listen to them. So let's go on. You have all that you need to move forward, both of you. And then look at this. P seeks impeachment, but it will not stick. Well, literally, that just happened in the time loop that we're in. She just did it again, and it did not stick again. And that just happened. So this is impressive. I did not know this was going to be in here. There are many very different things that will come to pass than what you are seeing now, and they're obviously talking about the present. And many very different things are exciting things based on the context. They tell us to be excited. So please be patient. Remember that you are not alone. And we, as in these higher beings, are working within this structure to ensure that the surprises are kept to a minimum, meaning anything really that bad, and the gold diggers are weeded out as much as is possible. And here they're talking about the DS, the cabal, the elite, whatever. So we are trying to make sure there's no surprises or that there's minimal surprises and that the gold diggers are weeded out. And that's exactly what's happening. And they talked about impeachment, so you can see where this is all going. The gold diggers are not referring to the president. Not at all. Just the opposite. Exactly the opposite. Open your eyes and see the beautiful vistas that lie ahead. It all is but a dream of your own choosing. And with that presence of mind comes the opportunity for real change within yourself and in the world at large. So open up your mind to the fractals of consciousness that exist within and emanate from the open heart, the gentle touch, and the considerate approach. Patience, respect, humility, and compassion. These are your greatest tools to go beyond what heretofore seemed possible. And with these tools, you again will have the opportunity to enact highly positive changes in the world. Look no further than within to find the next step, and the next step, and the next step. It takes a great deal of stamina and persistence to approach this work, which means just studying the things I'm telling you guys now, without being consumed by it. That's for anyone. And you have done an admirable, if not amazing job under the circumstances, and I do believe they're talking to you folks as well as me. We are indeed very appreciative of all that has transpired and your own role within said transformation. We are truly blessed to have both of you working on our team and listening for these answers as they are now being given. We do not in any way intend for you to lower your guard or stop producing anything when they said, please be less busy. What we are saying instead is that this is your moment. Both of you have been through elaborate preparatory stages. By staying true to the course that lies before you now and doing the simple works to enact those changes, you will be quite surprised by the variety and veracity of those opportunities that then come to pass. And again, I believe they're talking to everybody, all of our audience. Look inward and see the reflection of what is possible when you break the boundaries of your own limitations. You are on a train of revolutionary change, and it arrives at its destination regardless of the seemingly apparent obstacles. So don't worry about, oh my God, the country's going to fall. Oh my God, it's global fascism. Oh my God, it's tyranny. They're using all these time loops and synchronicities to tell us, no, you're going to be fine. Everything's fine, folks. Because some of these words talk about things that haven't happened yet. So it is prophetic. If it comes true, we're going to get to find out, but they're very confident. So do not fear the vagaries of your day-to-day existence, as something is coming. A sequence of events that will be utterly mind-blowing to you, fueling conspiracy theories at large, awakening great anger in the populace, but also redefining the nature of what it means to be human and where we are going as a civilization. So that was one of the ones that was such a summary statement. Whoop, my hair's getting all crazy now. That was one of the ones that was such a summary statement that I said, I gotta tweet that. And that was before my mother fell and injured her hip, and I showed you that, right? She injured her hip on Friday the 15th. I tweeted this on the 14th. So that again documents it in advance. So this really seems to be like a catch-all of what's going on right now. It will be a sequence of events that will be utterly mind-blowing. That's what we're expecting is about to happen. They will fuel conspiracy theories. They will awaken great anger in the populace, but they will redefine the nature of what it means to be human and where we go as a civilization. My God, this is so exciting. Let's keep reading. I want you personally involved in this, David and Beth, for reasons yet to be disclosed to you. There are certain rules in place that we cannot break, and for that I am sorry. Just know that you are loved more than you can ever possibly imagine, and this does not in any way preclude us from taking you to the next level of this mission. Now, I admit, I do not know what this means. I do not know what they say. I want you personally involved, David and Beth, for reasons yet to be disclosed to you. There are rules we can't break. I'm sorry. I don't know what the heck that is, but again, earlier they said you're going to get to be a lot more public than you are now. And I don't know if that's really good, but I guess if this is what we have to do to help the planet evolve, then so be it. I'm sorry that they compliment us so much, folks, because I know some people are going to get really mad at this, but this is what happened. You are both truly exceptional people, and what now is coming your way, which is for everyone, will also be quite inordinately exceptional. You may think that there is stagnation. Nothing could be further from the truth. You may think that there is impending defeat. Well, this is very present in the time loop that we're in right now, that they showed us. Nothing could be further from the truth. Instead of it being stagnation or impending defeat, it will be quite inordinately exceptional. Whoa. So they are very confident this is going to work out, folks. You are about to open up in ways that were never before possible, and that is very exciting for us to see. Fear not the coming changes, for they are very invigorating in a positive way. Do not be afraid. We are truly stunned to be on this timeline, as opposed to so many others that have not come to pass and now shall not come to pass either. We want to offer up to you our very best in rekindling the divine spark within you and allowing it to flourish like never before. We do not speak in idle speculation when we say that this will be a great success, meaning the planet will be brought back to us. It will be a great success. We have methods that have become very obvious to you now and which allow us to peer into the future with uncanny clarity. From that perspective and vantage point, we see many changes ahead. There are, in a metaphorical sense, nicotine stains on your fingers from the years of waiting and endless toil, and we will wash them off. And that, of course, is a reference to Pink Floyd The Wall. I got nicotine stains on my fingers, got a silver spoon on a chain, got a grand piano to prop up my mortal remains, right? You know that song. So that's what it's doing. It's referring to Pink Floyd The Wall. So the nicotine stains on your fingers, people smoking and people being anxious and just all the stuff that we've been going through. And Pink Floyd The Wall is totally about resisting fascism and how you got to do it within yourself first, because the alter ego of the character in Pink Floyd The Wall literally becomes another type of Hitler. And that's the whole movie, right? So the nicotine stains on his fingers is what was happening as he became this negative person. So they're saying they're going to wash off the nicotine stains. And there's a lot of positive stuff coming. Back to the slide. This is talking to everybody now. Bear in mind that any karma you may be experiencing at this point is deemed entirely necessary to ameliorate any causes that were set in motion by previous thoughts and actions, some of which are from other lifetimes. Rest assured, look at this, rest assured that there are not any further large disasters taking place that we can see in your own lives. Now, I hope this isn't proven horribly wrong in a couple of days, but I'm sure there will be some disasters, but they're saying large disasters, really big stuff, really bad stuff on the level of what happened during most of 2020. They're saying there are not other large disasters like that, but they might not be thinking of a temporary power outage or some buildings getting blown up or some mass shootings. That's not what they're defining as a large disaster. There's definitely going to be, I think there's going to be some stuff that goes down, even if it's just the people getting arrested and the process that involves, but not the global stuff. That's what they're saying. And so this is again a prophecy. We don't know if it's true yet, but it's very interesting how all this came through. Back to the slide. You have cleared all of the major hurdles. This is for us as a planet. So they're saying. And we are now working on refinements, subtle touches, and minor tweaks to this masterful and quite wonderful timeline. The apparent frustration that you have felt is only due to your impatience. I know that feeling. And again, we work within a much greater understanding of exactly what is happening, where it can go, and how those myriad changes can be more greatly facilitated and encouraged. We have lifted and lifted and lifted all of these weights off of you through your own global karmic reconciliations to ensure that the rules, if you will, permit this global transformation to take place so it will not be impeded or interrupted. And there's the word impede, which is a throwback to that impedance ring dream, right? So they don't want that type of impedance ring stuff they talked about to happen. It will not be impeded. There's a reason why they said that. So back to the slide. This is really funny. I wouldn't worry too much about the car, as you won't be needing private transportation fairly soon. All of these things will be handled for you, and you will not be so concerned about the details. So I don't think we're going to be using cars or private transportation anymore. I think they're talking about something that goes much beyond cars, anti-gravity. That's the forbidden technology coming out as part of this whole thing. So don't be so concerned about the details, they said. Now back to the slide. Trust me when I tell you that what is coming will be truly astonishing. And if you can understand this and not be afraid of it or concerned about the seeming lack of results, you can instead work diligently and patiently, knowing that these changes are indeed ahead. They are now considered inevitable. I guess this is what the ETs think in their own world, and it is only a matter of time. Do not fall prey to the trap of expecting the worldly signature of these events to be easily predictable based upon existing hallmarks and available intel. They're talking very strictly about the present. The existing hallmarks and the available intel of what we see right now, at the moment that I'm doing this, with my mother having just fallen, certifying when the time loop is, the hip time loop. I'm getting my hip worked on by a rolfer right as my mother fell. I didn't even see the text till after I got the rolfing done. I didn't know that she'd fallen yet. It was in the emergency room. So this is a very powerful thing in my own life to give me this message with these powerful family pain-oriented synchronicities, right? So again, back to the slide, do not fall prey to this trap of expecting the signature of these events being easily predictable based upon existing hallmarks and available intel. The intel for what is coming does not exist. It is not something that is under the control of any of the powerful men and women on your planet. It goes far beyond that now. So if I look at what this is saying and I look at how the pieces fit together, the ETs have their own plans. They've told me many, many times, as long as we as a humanity makes our best effort to try to restore freedom and end persecution, bring about justice, they on their side will make sure that that takes place. And they said they're putting their very lives on the line, and some of them will die. So it appears, if I am reading this right, that we are going to get an open interaction with them as part of disclosure, and they're using methods like this, and I'm sure many others like Hayim Mashed. They're using these kinds of ways to get us ready for what's going to turn into some sort of actual open communication. And they prefer the telepathic method. They don't like materializing in front of people in person. That's usually not how they want to do it. They talk in the law of one that can have very bad consequences. Okay, so back to the slide again. The intel for what is coming does not exist, and the people, the most powerful people on Earth, including the president and the alliance, they don't even know what's going to happen. It goes far beyond that. So that's really, really exciting, folks. Expect something from the ETs even much bigger than what we ever heard in 17. The changes themselves have now authorized the unfolding that is to occur. We are not at all displeased by what has transpired. The mass awakening has come in many, many stages, and it realizes great triumphs as well as exposing many apparent flaws and seeming setbacks. So don't fret about the small stuff, as it were. Look within. Allow yourselves to be redefined by what is coming. You will not be disappointed at all. In fact, as we said, the changes are quite inordinately extraordinary. So now the voice, my voice as I'm speaking, actually changes. It becomes softer, it sounds more like a woman, and it becomes slower. This is at 42 minutes, 16 seconds. I don't know why. I'm just documenting what happened as it was coming in. I don't remember any of this. I don't remember saying any of this. I don't remember any of this happening. I just want to be clear. Now they say this. Now that we have a deeper connection, let us pause for a moment and reflect upon the beauty of the present moment. We see so much that still lies ahead for you now. Without getting into all the details, it is quite wonderful to behold. And we will never leave you. We will never fail to look within and reconcile what you already know is possible with what has not yet transpired. I guess I didn't word that quite right, intone it quite right. Let me try it again. We will never fail to look within and reconcile what you already know is possible with what has not yet transpired. So we only persist through this awakening process long enough to imagine the next steps with enough clarity that everything becomes possible once again. Look at yourselves and think about what you have already done. Open up your mind to the possibilities of the next steps, and you will not be disappointed. I couldn't have asked for a better outcome than what we are now seeing. Isn't that something? That is not what most people are thinking right now. Not at all. You have truly outdone yourselves, and we sincerely admire the dedication that allows for these changes to take place. They're talking about the president, they're talking about Powell, they're talking about Flynn, they're talking about Wood, they're talking about Pompeo, everybody in the alliance. That's what they're congratulating everyone. You have truly outdone yourselves. Without this degree of focus, there would be no ascension, as we have asked you to envision it. Instead, there would be chaos and destruction. So we needed to have this uprising within our own people, or nothing would have worked out. So when we consider the timelines that are present and which ones work for us and which ones do not, we need not fear the outcomes anymore. They're being very redundant on this. Enough work has now been performed to relegate those unfortunate circumstances of lesser value in the grand spiritual sense to being negligent or even non-existent. So there's nothing bad that's going to be happening. It's all leading to the ascension. And this is part of the ascension. We're in it now. I know full well what you have accomplished, and I am truly very sorry about how hard it has been to reach this concrescence. This is for everyone. But fear not, for the great work has been performed, and the awakening is properly guided. And the unfolding process will occur on schedule, as is warranted. I know what it means to be down and out, as it were, but I wouldn't run from it. I wouldn't run from embracing the emotions of the joy and the pain that you have gone through to reach this vantage point. This is talking to everybody. And remember, we weren't down and out yet in 2019, right? We hadn't had the collapse yet. It is again truly extraordinary to marvel at how so many decisions enabled this current remarkable timeline to be activated. This is complimenting the alliance and complimenting the president. There is no reason to worry about what has not yet happened, as you will see mountains moving in your favor. You will see opinions and perceptions shifting dramatically, and you will see cosmic distributions of light love energetics. This is obviously a hyperdimensional kind of thing. You will see cosmic distributions of light love energetics sufficient to allow those who have awakened to their greater potentials to be activated in ways that might heretofore have seemed impossible. So with the ascension stuff, they talk about telekinesis, they talk about telepathy, they talk about levitation, bilocation. It's not going to happen right away, but these things become possible. It's really, really cool. Do I have any water here? Oh, my wife left me some water. Thank you, sweetheart.
You're welcome.
All right, back to the slide. I won't lie to you in saying that the changes come with stress for most. But bear in mind that this is not as bad as it seems. For within those periods of great longing, Within those challenges, therein lies the pearl of greatest price, the awakened mind and the open heart. I love this part. It's so poetic and beautiful. And without that, there can be no further progress. For what we have now is an opening, a refinement of what it means to be human on a level that was never heretofore even possible. Look at yourselves and, aware of the changes once and for all, accept exactly what it is that is happening and understand that there is no reason for concern. They keep saying it over and over. You have done and will do your due diligence, and that excites me greatly, for with it comes the opportunity for real change. Over the hills and far away come the horsemen who know not of the bounty that awaits the successful completion of Earth's new awakening. Now, Over the Hills and Far Away is the name of a Led Zeppelin song. Many times have I loved, many times been bitten, many times I've gazed along the open road. That's the song. I love that song. It's one of the best Led Zeppelin songs. So they quoted from that, and then they also mentioned horsemen, and that's the Led Zeppelin song "No Quarter," right? Where they carry steel, they carry news that's tried and true, to build a dream for me and you. Oh, my pitch is terrible there. They took the path where no one goes. Right? That's the whole... And they're talking about the Four Horsemen. So I don't know why they reference Led Zeppelin here, but the Four Horsemen are a symbol of death. And maybe there's some clues in the lyrics to Over the Hills and Far Away. I could unpack this more. I haven't really done that yet. I just literally built all these slides. But the Four Horsemen are like the apocalypse. So it's talking about the idea that the people that are trying to create this apocalypse know not of the bounty that awaits the successful completion of Earth's new awakening. So it's another statement about how things are going to be going in a very different direction here. Back to the slide. We are only tasked with supporting that which is inevitable, the seemingly small-scale steps that each soul makes as they struggle to redefine themselves. In light of this new information, walk with me a bit and allow your imagination to be suitably impressed by all that has already come to pass and by what will be transpiring as you enter into this next phase. We do not want you to be disappointed, and you will not be, for what we have done is already quite extraordinary and not to be dismissed. For it is when those like yourselves step up and redefine their existence that we see the greatest positive changes that will become realities now for so many more than had heretofore ever been possible. Look not to the sidelines, what has gone before, the drowning in a sea of emotions, the intense sense of loss and lack and limitation. Instead, focus your gaze upon the vistas on the horizon and what they tell us about our future destiny. These changes are now inescapable and again very positive. We dole out small pieces of information on an appropriate time basis so as not to interfere with what is coming, while also giving you a healthy preview of the inevitable nature of this glorious future. So just stick to your resolve without being swayed by the apparent success or failure of what you see happening in the world in today's currently emotionally charged marketplace. It will all be changing soon enough, in ways that cannot be foretold, only experienced. And with that, I take my leave of you, for this transmission grows weary. However, I am very impressed with what we have accomplished here today. I ask you to redefine yourselves around this authoritative statement from a very deep and authenticated trance level, inspiring the very changes that are already inevitable and encouraging them to proceed without interference, only as prescribed. This is the Great Awakening, and you shall have your roles to play in this process. Each of us do. We all do. We don't take you, the listener, for granted at all. We know how hard you have worked and how far you have come to be willing to do this much without stopping or setting down the sword within your quest. I liken it to true heroes, and I remind you again that you are loved more than you could ever possibly imagine. And I mean that. You are loved so very deeply, and you are protected so effectively that many of the things that concern you now are entirely superfluous and not even worthy of your conscious focus. That is all for now. Peace be with you in the light of everlasting love. Adonai and Amen. Okay, there's one more reading after this. It's a lot of personal stuff for me. I didn't have time to build the slides. I've been working frantically since I learned about this to build this show. This is a very complex show. Very, very large number of slides. So there was another reading on October the 8th, and I only have cherry-picked maybe 4 excerpts from it because I didn't have time to do the rest. We're going to do this, and then we're going to do a quick meditation to make sure that everything's going to go smoothly as they seem to be promising us. But let's read just a few excerpts from this last reading. This is the last of the 4. Here we go. Back to the slide. Subtle clues are not enough anymore to evoke mass effects. We are seeing the big changes arriving now, and they will continue for some time. So don't think this is all going to happen at once. There's going to be many, many big changes. It's not going to be subtle clues anymore. This is not an overnight process, so please do not fall prey or victim to the idea of an all-defining event or series of events in a matter of days or weeks. Well, isn't that quite the time loop? Aren't we all expecting an all-defining event in a matter of days right now? And didn't I tell you that even if the inauguration proceeds the way that the media tells you that it will, that there's tons of backup plans in the international community? They are not going to let this happen. Because the world understands, if this country becomes a fascist tyranny, the whole planet is screwed. The whole planet is screwed. So they're not going to let this happen, folks. It is not going to happen. But again, look, please do not fall prey or victim to an overnight process, the idea of an all-defining event or series of events in a matter of days or weeks. Well, that's exactly what we're expecting might happen very, very soon in this time loop we're in right now. But look at this. Each stage of the process will take time to unfold, but the masses have never been more prepared for these eventualities to occur than they are now. So it's going to take time. We have many options of how to pursue our agenda and communicate to the public. This is very ironic in light of the censorship we're dealing with now. This form, telepathic, is by far the most suitable for us, as it does not disrupt many of the most significant timelines that are expected to happen. With greater interventions, i.e. if they showed up in person, come greater risks, including the risk that their mission itself will not succeed. So they have to do it this way. Oh, David is so full of it. David doesn't really... Look, I wrote the whole book. I'm sorry, but the book is there. You can read about it. Do your due diligence. Don't just go and make up stuff and think that, nobody could do this. This is nonsense. This is BS. Look, remote viewing is 99% accurate. How hard would it be to telepathically communicate with remote viewing with non-physical entities if they exist at all? And most people do believe they exist. So we can all trade in this. We can all learn these protocols. It comes out of remote viewing. And I just modified it to be able to listen to words and sentences. And in my book, I tell you how to do it. Okay, back to the slide. The entourage needs to work through a system of rules and guidelines. This is their entourage, the positive beings. We need to work through a system of rules and guidelines before we can make manifest any of the greater requirements that have to be in place before we can show ourselves in such a direct form. So what they're doing now is laying out that there are other guidelines and rules that they have to have happen before they could just appear in the sky. Nonetheless, this will indeed happen sooner than you think. And that is indeed also very exciting. Well, we're either going to be right or wrong. This is what they're saying. All sorts of things are going to open up for you, many of which you have never before imagined, as we said. It is okay to be somewhat afraid of these things if you so choose to, but it is also not necessary to be afraid. What you will see happening before you is a truly mind-bending resolution of sorts, where all the scattered pieces of the past come together, any mysteries are answered, and a clear and undeniable solution emerges from their midst. This is one of my favorite quotes from these readings. And I think that's one of the ones I put in the tweet. I'm not sure, but it's a great one. What you will... I don't need to read it again, but this is beautiful. It is wonderful to watch this transition come fully into view and to investigate the changes that may and will occur and how they iterate into the lives of the so-called everyday person. All right, folks, we are up to our meditation. So Beth has some cool cameras that we put in here. She can get the voyeuristic view. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can pan them. So as I do all that, one more thing before we get to the meditation. This could be the last one. I mean, I'm amazed that it hasn't already happened, given the kind of stuff I'm putting out. So please, 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 go to dwilcock.com, dwilcock.com. And if you haven't already gotten on my email list, please put your email list in there. We're not sending, I mean, we do send a couple offers here and there, but it's very infrequent. But the main thing is to be able to stay in touch. We all have to have a way to communicate. I don't want to lose you. I don't want you to lose me. I want you to know where I'm going, and I want you to know what I'm doing. So there's lots of options, and I will definitely keep doing this no matter what. Please go to dwilcock.com, sign up today, and get on the email list. And you don't have to do it right this second. Let's do it after the meditation. But after the meditation, please go over, type in dwilcock.com, and get on the list. We really, really need you. I have no idea what's coming next, because right now it looks really, really crazy. These readings are incredibly optimistic and positive. I probably wouldn't have been this positive myself or this optimistic myself, but I'm sharing with you the data that I actually received. So when you look at all the things that are going on, this massive military buildup all over the country, people are not being able to get in and out of DC without authenticating themselves, power outages in Italy, power outages in Germany, power outages in Pakistan, etc., 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 etc. This is very exciting, and it really looks like some crazy, crazy, wonderful stuff is about to happen. But they also said don't get hung up on it all happening in 1 or 2 days. So it might be totally different. But even if it looks really bad, and if you see things in the next few days that look really bad, if it doesn't at all work out the way we were hoping it will, if nothing seems to have happened, if somebody just gets sworn in and everybody's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I've heard tons of things, you know, not in any detail, but several briefings from our guy in NATO, we do have a real source. Anybody who says I don't have any sources is nonsense. I've proven that over many years, insiders I've interviewed. So our guy says, look, we have tons of ways to do this. It's going to be all right. Even if there's an inauguration, we're going to take care of it. All right, so with all that being said, this is an incredibly, incredibly exciting series of transmissions. She just told me we have 13,500 people live. That is more than double. It is double the amount that we need to create a 72% reduction in crime, war, terrorism, fatalities worldwide. That's the amazing thing about global meditations. They really do work. So please don't sign off yet. I'm only going to stay with you for a couple more minutes here. I see it's 10, 11, 11 to 12. It's midnight on the East Coast. I'm sorry about that. I had to get through all these readings. It was very important I read all of it, as I'm sure you can see. So without further ado, let's go into our meditation now. So I'd like you to close your eyes and put both feet flat on the floor and take a nice deep breath. And just let it go. Feeling so much peace, so much tranquility. The faith, perhaps, in the process working out. The truth, the trust, the knowingness that things will be okay, that we are going to be okay, that this will all be okay, that there are higher benevolent forces with our best interests in mind, looking over this planet, making sure that all is as it needs to be, engendering a mass awakening. Maybe this isn't all doom and gloom. Maybe there is a silver lining. Maybe this is more fantastic than we would have ever dared to believe. Maybe our lives are going to change so much more than we would have ever thought possible. So much faster than we would have ever thought possible. To really, really know that we are protected, that we are safe, that we will be okay. To affirm it, to decree it, to acknowledge that this is the way of the universe. To breathe in and affirm that you are breathing in love. You are breathing in light. You are breathing in peace. And as you exhale light. You exhale love. You exhale peace. Feeling that connection to the identity that the whole entire universe is made from. The omniscient awareness that is within all of us, such that all we need to do is lessen our distortions, gain personality transparency, and then the thoughts within our own mind will more and more become the thoughts of the Creator. And it is at this point that we seek to become messengers of the Creator. We seek to share with others the love, the peace, the joy, the harmony, the everlasting happiness, knowing that we cannot die, that we will always exist, that life on earth is a school, and that we learn various principles through experiencing and making mistakes. We are so grateful for the joy that is around us, for the excitement within planet Earth as this new awakening is about to dawn, as everyone on Earth is learning the truth about the hidden worlds that were kept from them, about the forbidden technologies that may yet soon be released, and about the rejuvenation of our financial system, our infrastructure, our world, our environment, our ecology. We have the power to completely transform this planet into a true paradise within our current existing political structure. We heard this from the authenticated reading that came in, with all these time loops showing us that we can trust in the goodness of what is going on. We can have faith. We can be hopeful. We don't need to carry around sorrow and burdens. And we don't need to beat ourselves up. When you see yourself in the mirror, be kind. Gaze into your eyes with love. For you have been so hard on yourself. You have beaten yourself up. You have felt that you haven't done enough. You felt that you weren't paying enough attention, that the planet spiraled out of your control, that it's terrifying, that you have no idea what to do. Now, as you exhale, breathe all that sense of lack and fear and limitation out. And breathe in trust. Breathe in light. Breathe in knowingness. Breathe in faith. The faith in our elected officials who are protecting us. The faith in the alliance that is working to ensure that peace is restored and that our planet is saved from this seemingly unstoppable disaster. We embrace the possibility of a loving, peaceful, nonviolent solution. We embrace the possibility of seeing these videos airing on television, however it happens, or hearing the audio. The incredible civilization-defining events that may happen in the future. And either way, we trust that by simply breathing and being so deeply relaxed, we can send this energy to those who protect us, to the brave men and women in uniform, to our forefathers who fought in the American Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, so many others. We thank you for your service. We thank you for your dedication. We know that you might be afraid. We know that this is very rough. We know that you're sleeping on hard floors. And the MyPillow CEO is donating pillows to you so you can be more comfortable. We thank him, and we thank you for what you're doing. We thank the command structure. We thank everyone who is working for the higher and greater good here. And we affirm the success of these plans, the fulfillment of the grand awakening that is taking place at this time. Take this energy and send it into the earth, the energy we are raising now. Visualize the earth itself healing. See the happiness on people's faces. See the wonder as they truly understand what is going on. For yes, there will be a biting through. There will be a period of intense despair, intense sorrow. And we ask that that sorrow be lessened, that the sense of relief about being okay will circumvent and supplant the enormous fear and disgust that people will fear that they will learn about and that they will learn about as this process comes through and as we hear these things. Breathing even more deeply, envisioning the all omnipresent white light, the true identity that we all come from. We see that light surrounding us now, this brilliant white light. And we ask that that light spread forth, spread through the planet, spread through all those who are in need of prayer and healing, all those existing in despair. And we ask that the highest and most positive timelines be activated and carried through. We ask for protection for those who are bringing about this change. And we ask that we get to see the fruits of our hard-earned labor. All those who've been awakening to the truth. Now it comes to fruition. Now we get to see what all the fuss is about. And now we get to begin co-creating the future that we all deserve. May we all have bravery. May we all have courage. May we all have faith. May we all have kindness. May we remember to be kind to one another and to ourselves. And may we always remember that we are not alone. We are loved and guided and protected and cared for more than we can possibly imagine by a whole universe of loving, intelligent life that has always been around, building the pyramids, giving us great spiritual teachings throughout time and space. They never left. And now we are about to get far more information, which may in fact lead to a direct physical contact at some point with our brothers and sisters from elsewhere. We thank you, O Father, Mother God, for all that you have done, for the bounty you've given us, and the wonder and the splendor of what is yet to come. We thank you, and we remain dedicated to this mission above all else. For where we go one, we go all. And so it is. Now I ask that you breathe yourself back into the room, wiggle your fingers and toes. You might want to open your eyes. Okay, we did it. That was a lot of slides, and I'm sorry it ran over 3 hours. I'm David Wilcock. Thank you for being here. And we will have a lot more as long as I don't get taken down. Please send us your email. Remember, go to dwilcock.com. Pop in that email address. If I end up on Rumble or wherever the heck I go, you can be there with us. So thank you. Elizabeth, do you have any last words for anybody you'd like to say?
There is
Yeah.
a really wonderful saying that I just would like to read from this book here, which is called The Art of Peace by one of my favorite people, Morihei Shiba, the founder of Aikido.
All right.
And it's a wonderful book. I suggest anybody who loves peace to read it, because he was also a true warrior. The art of peace begins with you. Work on yourself and your appointed task in the art of peace. Everyone has a spirit that can be refined, a body that can be trained in some manner, a suitable path to follow. You are here for no other purpose than to realize your inner divinity and manifest your inner enlightenment. Foster peace in your own life and then apply the art to all that you encounter. So may we remember to foster peace within ourselves, take care of ourselves, train, and spread that to others. Thank you for being here. David?
All right. That's it. And I am very, very excited about what is going on. I will not leave you. I will not abandon you. I've cleared my schedule. There's nothing else going on. So whatever the heck is going down, I will be here with you, and we're going to go through this together. Thank you for watching. I'm David Wilcock, and we'll see you next time.